Grazie, buonasera a tutti quanti, grazie per essere qua.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are getting started with the event, with Pier Giorgio Caria, the Spheres of Buga. But before we start, I wanted first of all to thank you for being here. We are in Palermo. There are some friends that will follow us online also. This conference will be posted on the channels, therefore, you can recommend it. Once you leave from here, even to the friends and all the people that are interested, and that today couldn't be here with us. But you who are here, thank you. So, briefly, here we have a spiritual research group that takes care of spreading awareness and information. Therefore, this group, that is simply a group formed by people. I manage it and Giovanni together with me. Come on the stage for a moment so you identify us. Actually, Giovanni mainly is the person that then will be in charge of assisting you, of answering you. We have a phone number, we have also an email. Therefore, the sheets that you have found at the entrance, where you can leave your contacts, fill them, because then, thanks to those sheets, we will be able to insert you in a mailing list or in a chat. Even better, now we are using especially WhatsApp to communicate with you and invite you to the appointments that we hold here in Palermo, once a month. This group, it is a simple group, formed by people that gather to deepen the spiritual themes that are part of the science of the spirit. Therefore, the subjects that are useful to us to begin that process of inner transformation, therefore human, and then to also be activists in society in a way. We care very much about following these two tracks that are the study, therefore the contemplation, also through some practices, or through also some moments together where we discuss, where we meditate, where we dedicate a space to get to know each other better. And then, regarding the activism in society, we try to put it in practice by supporting some associations. For example, today there is one here in the room. I am the president, that is Funima International, and that is specifically involved in supporting children, young people, families that live in situations of difficulty with different projects, a bit all over the world, from the humanitarian field in Latin America, where we also send some volunteers to do activities of volunteering on the field, up to education projects here in Palermo, for example. We have an important network of associations with which we collaborate to do our part also on our territory. Therefore, it is an association that works on various fronts, and the local spiritual research group moves also in the field to do some concrete things. We take part in small markets. In short, we have many initiatives, a little dedicated to fundraising and a little focused precisely on more concrete activities. However, we will deepen these things in the next meeting. That is, in all the meetings that we carry out once a month, where we plan the moments of study and we also use the materials that we have at disposal. Pier Giorgio Caria is a researcher who has shared on his channel, piergiorgiocaria.it. A lot of conferences are actually free as well. Then there are very many seminars for in-depth study that are very important, that we recommend, and we watch them together in these meetings, and then we comment on them. Therefore, in my opinion, they are very interesting, beyond coming to the conferences, to be able to study them at home. These themes with your books, in short with the conferences that you can see on YouTube, and also share them. We really care about sharing with each other and discussing, going deeper. And in a way, those who are more prepared can also help answer questions. We try basically, in our own way, to dig a little deeper into the details. Because we are interested in growth. That is, we know to be in a moment of transformation of humanity. We believe very much in the concept of the new man, of the new humanity, and we want to be part of this process. Facilitate it actually, accelerate it as much as possible, to bring ourselves towards another human dimension. Alright? And we want to do it in this way. We believe in the personal growth, and we believe that each one of us must also do his own duty, deploying his own energies to try to change the society. But first of all, it must start from ourselves. I know that you agree, because this is a concept that you will have surely heard about anyway, because whoever is here today, you who are here, surely you are seekers. So we don't feel we've got anywhere, but we feel we are people who seek. Therefore, we like to study. And we like, in short, to put it in practice. All right, I hope you enjoy the conference. And have a good rest of the evening. I repeat, beyond the sheet, to leave your contacts. We have left also a little box for donations, because these events are self-financed. That is, we ask to the people that are part of this group to contribute and help us to spread awareness. Therefore, conferences like these have a cost. Since we are paying these expenses by ourselves, if you want to contribute, there is a little donation box for that. All right? Start preparing the questions, because in my opinion, they're the most important part. And if there is time, because the material that Pier Giorgio has brought, seeing that he is just back, together with his staff precisely from Mexico and from Colombia, bringing this amazing discovery of this sphere that appeared, was found, and of which today he will go deeper into all its dynamics. Again, I wish you a good evening. All right? Thank you for being here.
Sì, sì, sa. Salve a tutti.
Hello, everyone. So, I have a lot of things to talk to you about. I was replying to some Colombian friends just now.
Paisanos.
Because there is a continuous flow of events that are happening, so of information. Given the time zone, from morning to night information keeps coming in. This event marks an important fact of which the majority of humanity is not conscious and has no awareness of a very important fact that even we researchers barely, and not all of us, contemplate the various aspects of the extraterrestrial visit. That is, a visit that goes to touch all the areas of human knowledge, each and every one, from the historical one to the scientific one, the social, sociological, geopolitical, and spiritual, where the spiritual part, in reality, a fact not accepted by traditional ufology, is the most important part. Not in the concept of spirituality as we intend it, that is, of religious beliefs or of religious institutions of various kind and type, including non-institutional religions such as the Buddhists. For these beings, spirituality is the most important aspect, so to speak, of the structure of the human being, where we have an immanent part that is the body and an energetic part, invisible to the human eye, but eternal, that is the spirit. For the extraterrestrials, the spirit is not a religious belief. It is an entity scientifically identified, measured, contemplated, and understood. That is, these beings know very well what creation is, especially the creation in its most important aspect, that is the intelligent beings, therefore us as well. A field where human societies, since we have historical record of it, have always relegated in the field of the religious beliefs without realizing ourselves that the religious beliefs are, let's say, a kind of blanket that hides a single true reality that is scientific. The proof has always been right in front of our eyes, but we have never been able to understand it because since we are born, we are manipulated and subjected to concepts and to information that we find in the religious tradition, and therefore the institution, in our case the Catholic one, gives us certain information that are absolutely false or at least incomplete and manipulated. And therefore, to this day, the human being navigates in a realm of uncertainty, or of unconsciousness, due to the ignorance of what we really are. That is, in fact, the very great majority of humanity perceives itself as body and does not manage to give a scientific answer to the most dramatic event of our life, that is death. Death is a common fact, very normal, but all of us pretend that we will not die. This because, in our life plans, except maybe when by now, the body is gone, and you try at least to save your soul, then you start to think on your death. But maybe you think about the tomb, you think about the funeral, you think about the coffin, you think about all the ceremony. But when you think, what will become of me? Alas, here the problem begins. You cannot give yourself an answer. Or maybe you give yourself an answer according to the use and the religious custom, but in fact you are not certain that it is so. And this is because until you have had health and strength, you have reveled in the senses and in the matter, neglecting, in that limit, beyond the consciousness, the main problem of our existence, that is that one day we will die. We will not be here anymore. We will not be here anymore. We will not be here anymore, or will we? And if we are, where will we be? And if we are not, why are we not? They are all fields where we do not have an answer. Here, these beings have an answer. Therefore, having an answer, they try, in their, let's say, drive, of very civil beings that have solved all the problems that grip the terrestrial humanity, the wars, the social injustice, the criminality, genocides like Gaza, operated by figures that are defined heads of state but that are ferocious criminals, people that should be put in jail and thrown away the key. And together with these maybe also some of our rulers that are accomplices of this genocide, because Italy sells weapons to Mr. Netanyahu. Now, does it not seem strange to you that a society that defines itself civil defines Totorina a criminal that must be put in jail because he kills? How many will Toto have killed? Let's guess, the anti-mafia experts. Give me a hand. How many? Here, Totorina, that is considered a kind of Hitler, has killed 1,000 people. How many has Netanyahu killed?
1 million.
There we go. However, since Netanyahu boasts of a title, he is a head of state, then he is no longer a criminal. Now I would like to ask to the public, and also to the one that listens to me, and will listen to me, what difference there is between the dead killed by Totorina and the dead killed by Netanyahu.
None.
No, it is worse. Because Totorina killed in a military concept anyway. Judges or other mafia members. Mr. Netanyahu kills defenseless people, children, women, elderly. They said, everyone moved to the north of Gaza. The poor Palestinians moved to the north of Gaza, and then came the fighters to bomb them. Therefore, if Totorina has deserved what he has deserved, what about someone like Netanyahu? That is, guys, there is a crime that became a criminal offense thanks to Giovanni Falcone, if I am not wrong. It is that of participation in mafia association. Now, why shouldn't the participation of the Italian government with a genocidal criminal be subject to criminal law? These things I do not understand them, and the extraterrestrials understand them even less. And they understand even less how a society, that is us, that defines itself civil, remains serene and calm in the face of such terrible crimes. It means that we are accomplices of serious crimes, because if I walk in a street and there is someone that is killing a person and I don't do anything, I am considered guilty. It is called failure to assist. Therefore, if we do not do something with the very serious crimes that happen under our eyes and we do not care, this is failure to assist, not under human law, but under God's law. And there is a little problem. The law of God is the only law in which the punishment is guaranteed, while in the human one it is not guaranteed. Now, obviously these speeches seem a bit far-fetched because we have no awareness and consciousness of what happens between life, death, and life. But these effects, the effects of these causes, unfold in the post-mortem and in the return to life. Another problem that the extraterrestrials point out to us is placing the concept of reincarnation in the religious sphere. But what does religion have to do with it? If we are all reincarnated spirits, it is a scientific fact, not a religious one. Now, Catholicism teaches us that Christ did not contemplate reincarnation. Wrong. Catholicism teaches us that Christ did not contemplate karma. Wrong. The gospel is grounded in the law of cause and effect, that is karma, on reincarnation. The Lord says to the great priest Nicodemus, he says, "Nicodemus, you must be born again." Because Nicodemus asks him, "How can a man who has become old return to his mother's womb?" The priest will tell you, he is talking about baptism, but he is talking about a uterus, about a womb. He is not talking about water. You must be reborn in water and spirit. What is water? Water is the basis of life. Our body in molecules. Our body is composed of 99% water. Our body is purer water than seawater because it contains 6% mineral salts. So all this information is unknown to human civilization. So from these concepts, where the concept that we can get away with it if we manage to outsmart the judge rather than the carabiniere does not exist in divine law. But since divine law becomes a religious belief, hence crimes are committed at every turn, not realizing that we are going to devastate our future. So what will happen? It will happen that maybe in 1,000 years we will be reincarnated and we will see a scruffy dog that will make us so sad to see passing by in the street. That was Netanyahu. Or rather maybe an Italian prime minister, or maybe an American with a blonde toupee. The extraterrestrials warn us, be careful because the effects of these causes unfold over very long stretches of time, but they are certain, because there is a science, unknown to us, called science of the spirit, which is science. It is not religious belief. So, this extraordinary fact that happened on March 2nd of this year, meaning that for the first time Earth's civil society has alien technology in its hands. I touched it, I held it in my hands, I went like this and gave it a headbutt. Amazing. I didn't believe my eyes. I took it. I must have held it, me with my crew. We had it, I think, for 2-3 hours. Actually, at the end, Mosan called a lady and said, "Listen, clean it up a bit because they touched it too much." But seriously, I'm telling you, because for someone like me, who for 35 years studies this phenomenon, having also had direct experiences, to have in hand their technology, it's like you won a prize in the lottery. That is, you are living something that you believed, that you could live only maybe when there would have been the great contact with humanity. Quite the opposite. An unexpected and unpredictable fact happened, that these beings decided to put in our hands one of their objects that is giving extraordinary scientific results. So, the extraterrestrial visit brings beyond the mere scientific technological aspect, which is important nevertheless, because it contains within itself elements of these topics. Then we will see them during the presentation. But the most precious gift that these beings bring us is the gift that solves the problem of humanity's suffering, problem to which we cannot find a solution. Now, we are considered the first world, we are one of the 7 countries. Most industrialized, richest, even if things aren't exactly going well, because with the madness of having severed relations with the Russians who sold us energy cheaply, our economy is going down. So, the powers that be have made some wrong calculations, which unfortunately are backfiring against our personal interests too. Because everything is more expensive, but far more expensive, and still, we don't see the bottom of this descending curve of the economy. So the most precious gift that these beings bring us is this scientific knowledge that applied would solve our problems, from the personal intimate ones to the global ones, with wars, pollution, injustices, genocides, heinous criminals who end up in the governments of peoples, which anyway even the Israelis are not doing so well, eh? Because Netanyahu's madness, which beyond the interests of broad scope, but he also has personal interests because he is indicted for corruption. So the moment the war stops, Mr. Netanyahu ends up in jail, so he prefers to exterminate thousands of human beings, children included, just to avoid jail for himself. So situations truly insane. So this most precious baggage that these beings bring us is a very thorough knowledge about the nature of the human being. Now someone asks me, excuse me, where do they bring it to us? In the mailbox? Where do they send it? No, they transmitted it over the span of about 80 years, considering that ufology was born in 1947, but let's say the first contactees date back to the early 50s, so George Adamski, Howard Menger, Eugenio Siragusa, from Catania and so on. People who received an enormous amount of communications from these beings containing a most precious body of knowledge, which is very important to study. So I always tell people that it is important to do homework. This is the page of my website, the home, and there is a section, see? Free resources. From here you can download about 20 books in electronic format, which are a compilation of messages from the cosmic world and from the divine world that deal with these topics, where it is also explained by these beings who they are, why they come, and what they want. So the main motivations that drove them at this time to visit so persistently and, let's say, significantly, humanity on this earth. Obviously, they know very well, being much, much older than us, that planet Earth is inhabited. But in this time, they gave rise to a much more intense activity, which is a contact project, because for the first time in known history, we have in hand a science capable of destroying humanity and the planet itself, that is nuclear weapons. And in view of the very serious tensions that exist at international level, they are very, very worried that the little morality of our heads of state could lead humanity, including the cowardice of peoples who pretend everything is fine, or, if they don't pretend, they hope that sooner or later things will take a turn for the better. But it is a hope that is not supported by concrete facts, because everything always turns for the worse. And therefore, they are here for this reason. Also, for this reason. In the meantime, that they watch with their technologies and possibly would intervene in case of a generalized nuclear conflict meanwhile. With great, let's say so, trust, perhaps misplaced, they provide us with a knowledge that could activate a certain number of human beings who, engaging in social activism, maybe we manage to prevent from here, without their intervention, that the irreparable happens. Certainly, it's not that I have much trust, because if I go out and go to the beach, I don't see many people worried about how the world is going, however. We try. So, you can download these texts from my website, or you can write to the email info piergiorgiocaria.it. The answer is automatic. You will receive an email with a procedure to download these texts. Then, for those who are not accustomed to electronic format, who prefer good old-fashioned paper, can write to this email, info@cosmicshop.it, and request the booklets in paper format. It costs only what's needed to cover printing, and they are costs that are lower than what you would spend going to a copy shop and having them printed physically. Let's say so. So, the information is the most precious baggage that these beings bring us, because it is the information that defiles our logical capacity. And you know very well how much time, forces, and money the powerful employ to defile our perception of reality. The so-called mainstream does nothing but pour onto us a continuous avalanche of information, which are false. That is, the truth is not told to us so that we remain helpless in front of the schemes and the methods and projects of world elites who possess gigantic capitals and who do everything except our interests, but they only serve their own, that is, preserve their power and their wealth. So a new information is necessary capable of reshaping the fundamental base of the knowledge that we have, to reclaim what is our power, because the people are, after all, the legs of the table. So if we decided, and were really able to unite under the banner of peace and justice, we could overturn the table of the powerful. But being disunited in beliefs of various kinds and types, religious, political, economic, soccer teams, the more the merrier, the divided people will not be able to change the fate of the situation. Pink Floyd sang in the wonderful album The Wall,
"Together we stand, divided we fall.
United we stand, divided we fall. In fact, we always lose because we are divided. In fact, the heart of the process that maintains power is that of divide and conquer. The Caesars taught us 2,000 years ago, and it still works very well. Because we're such fools, we always fall for it. So there is who cheers for Maloney, who cheers for watermelons, who cheers for persimmons, who cheers for figs, and we don't get to the bottom of it. Why? The concept is easy. The party means divided. So parties divide us. They are made on purpose for that. But it seems to me that the peoples of Earth do not need a political color. All peoples of Earth need a job, a house, health, good education, good food. What does politics have to do with it? It is the instrument of power to put us one against the other. Except then, not even being intelligent enough to see what is obvious, that there the politicians have never served the interests of the people. They have always done their own business. But that's life. That's how the world works. Another basin of information is my YouTube channel, which is free. So there are a sea of conferences, hours and hours and hours of information.
C'è qualcuno che dice Caria parla sempre e non ci fa mai vedere nulla.
And there is someone who says, Caria always talks and never shows us anything. I say, either you have dirty glasses, or you have a problem with your vision, or you live on Mars and you have the TV turned off. The one that shows you, I don't know, maybe, I am the researcher who shows, I am not a ufologist. Someone tells me that Caria is a ufologist. Caria has never been a ufologist. I worked for RAI, Radio Televisione Italiana, for over 10 years, indirectly because I was in a private studio that made documentaries for RAI, for the program Voyager. Then my documentaries aired. From Israel to Australia, they went a little around the world. I won awards in Italy and in the United States, so I am a documentary filmmaker, never been a ufologist. I document. And so I show things because if I don't document anything, no way RAI would broadcast my documentary. So, these raging lunatics, who say that I never show anything, surely confuse me with someone else. Another source of information is the website of Giorgio Bongiovanni, the bongiovannifamily.it, and the YouTube channel of Giorgio Bongiovanni, stigmatized and contactee from Floridia, province of Syracuse. So, the costs of the research that I carry out are enormous. And therefore, me too. Since I no longer work for televisions, which anyway didn't allow me to say everything I was discovering, that is, in quotation marks, I had to self-censor because I knew very well that if I had put certain things in the documentary wouldn't have passed the screening. In fact, before starting to edit a documentary, I had to send the screenplay to the editorial office at RAI. They would check it, tell me if I had to change anything, and then they would authorize it. From that moment, I would start the work. So this way of doing things annoyed me in the end, and I said, you know what? I'll be a researcher. By myself. That is self-publish. With the channels that modern computer technologies put at our disposal, the fruits of my research, and therefore, I get by like this. I go on like this. So I gave rise to an initiative, which is a subscription, where I provide extra content to the subscribers. Let's say, especially, obviously, video content, and a monthly appointment, question and answer, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours, where people send me questions, and I then make a video, where I answer the people's questions directly. The cost is negligible over the year, but it's a small aid to help me, to provide you the information of which we will talk about today and much more. I already took 2 trips to Mexico, 1 to Colombia. Now I need to return to Colombia because I haven't finished the work. By the way, just yesterday, I got news from the Colombian friends, which I'll show you. And all this you can imagine that it means bringing a crew of 3, 4 people to these countries. Therefore, to those who appreciate the fruit of my work, if you give me a hand, I'm grateful to you, and I say it to you in the hall. And I say it to the audience that listens to me in the video, and that will listen to me in the future. If you like what I do and the information I give you, give me a hand. By the way, curiously, the whole planet Earth talks about the Buga Sphere. Everyone is talking about it.
Not here.
Not here.
No, in the media forget about it. Yeah, bye. Then, have you noticed, there's no longer a program like Voyager in Italy? Because it was bothersome. The peak was when I presented 2 documentaries, one on the Amicizia case, and another on the case of an individual with whom we have nothing to do with anymore, but was a very important case. Jacobo called me. After viewing the documentaries, he told me, I can't broadcast these documentaries. I said, what do you mean, Roberto? You paid for them. No, he says. Don't misunderstand me. I have to find a different formula. That is, I have to make a separate program from the ones I usually do. I said, but how come? They're too clear. There's stuff too clear. He says, I have Chicap always breathing down my neck, who have a lot of power in RAI. And if I broadcast this stuff like this, so I have to put you under inquisition. I say, what are you going to do, burn me in the square? No. I'll call in a commission of experts, and I'll try to be impartial. Half the commission will be in your favor, half the commission will be against you. And in the opposing commission there were Biniami from Repubblica, a physics professor from CICAP, and other people I don't remember. They were all rendered speechless, because faced with the evidence of the data that I provided in those documentaries, no, nothing, they couldn't do anything. And from there, things started to change because evidently someone, maybe even from the holy chambers that are in that small state inside Rome, called and said, that guy there, you have to make him disappear. In fact, for years anyway, I was called by TVs as a researcher, both in RAI and in Mediaset. Nobody calls me anymore. That is really, actually, friends who, TV journalists, with whom I had a decent relationship don't even greet me anymore. Therefore, I think either they don't greet me because I changed deodorant and they don't like the new one anymore, or they don't greet me because someone told them, you have to cut ties with that guy. In fact, they don't call me anymore. I was on TV many times. I remember in a program where Giletti was presenting, it was that one, Piazza Italia, a lunchtime program more or less. There was Giletti, Rita Dalla Chiesa, Toto Cutugno. Then I was also with that other one, that chubby Neapolitan one. What's his? Magali. And I remember I started a mini conference that they were all so interested that at a certain point... May?
Was Margarita Hack there, perhaps?
No, that was another television. It was another program. It was with Luca Giurato. Luca Giurato, who made Hack intervene, who shot her usual nonsense. Very good scientist, don't get me wrong, also a person of great social culture. But she knew nothing about ufology. Only they always called her. So she in this program, now I'll deviate, because Marcello and his identical but different twin, Marco, they're telling me, Hack started to shoot a lot of nonsense, and I said, excuse me, Luca? Can I answer? Yes, of course. Here, excuse me, doctor, but how much time have you spent studying ufology? But what? But I don't have time to study these silly things. I said, excuse me, but if you don't know about ufology, can you explain to me what you're doing here? Because all the things you said are completely bogus. That is, you're not a ufologist. Being an astronomer doesn't mean you see UFOs, because astronomers use telescopes or radio telescopes. You don't use binoculars to see the mosquito that is inside the room. You'll never spot it. Therefore, with telescopes, it's very difficult to catch UFOs that are small compared to planets and galaxies. Even if there are, in ufological history, various astronomers who with telescopes have filmed UFOs.
Also the arrogance and presumption that she was a scientist, in my opinion, had that form.
But because she's manipulated too, not having ever studied.
Margarita Hack is not a scientist, she's an astronomy teacher.
Thanks, there you go. So, yes, now what's the problem? In a meeting that took place on March 8th and 9th in Austin, Texas, where a documentary was presented that is called The Age of Disclosure, The Age of Divulgation or Revelation, where there are as many as 34 very high-level individuals who have testified that extraterrestrials are here on Earth, and I'm talking about generals, military, ex-members of the CIA, politicians like Marco Rubio, like the senator, Tim Burchett, etc., etc. And Mike Gold, who was a NASA administrator, Mike Gold said, they're threatening us, not because we said something, But it's enough that you're part of a commission that is interested in these topics, and we get threatened, at least in our career, if not with the use of lethal force, according to an article on American national security. That is, the presence of UFOs is a national security topic, such that you can even be killed. And an ex-NASA administrator named Mike Gold says it. And there's another gentleman who is a scientist named Gary Nolan, who is proposed for Nobel Prize, who is interested in these topics. They called him to the Secret Services and told him, "You have to stop talking about these things because otherwise we'll use lethal force." He says, in the interview, he starts crying. He says, "They wanted to kill me. So the subscription allows me to have a more direct relationship with my audience. So I can offer my audience topics that I can't propose on official channels. I already have very important ones in the works that will come out soon. And it's something that helps me anyway to carry on with my research because I want to remain free. I don't want to be financed by anyone except the audience, to whom I have to answer, and that's it. Since my audience is very satisfied, thanks. With the things I do, I ask, it's an exchange, a do ut des. So to subscribe, you go to the home, you scroll. Start your personal growth path. Bear in mind, in this growth path, obviously, spiritual science plays a very important part, as it is both an elevation tool and a practical tool for solving real problems in our life. I talk a lot about this aspect here because I've been for over 35 years on this path, which started in the distant April of 1988, when at the time I was a railroad worker and a work colleague told me about Eugenio Siragusa, a contactee from Catania. Then from there, a whole series of truly incredible events unfolded that also led me to live direct experiences with these beings. To stay in contact, therefore to be informed about my events. There's the events section of my website. There's my Facebook page, Instagram, my Telegram channel, where I post. So if you subscribe, you'll receive automatically the information about the things I do and about the news. Then you can subscribe to a newsletter, and there's a form, you see. Let's stay in contact. You fill it out. Or you write to the email, segreteria@piergiorgiocaria.it. The most precious heart of the information, which, obviously, simply due to time constraints, and I can't carry out in the context of conferences because I would have to do conferences every single day. There are the seminars, which are courses, real theme-focused courses. So there's like a Netflix, video seminars, you see on the left in my website, where you subscribe. And you can create your own playlist, obviously. Since they're courses, there's a cost. These are all the series because the seminars, being courses, are series. For example, the course on karma and reincarnation lasts 14 days. Think about the amount of information of 14 episodes of at least 6-8 hours each. Think how much information there is on a topic that, apparently, can be summed up in 2 words. Because in these courses we also explore historical aspects of people who made history, then reincarnated, etc., etc. Other seminars, for example, this is an analysis of the pandemic period, especially in relation to the green pass to be able to work, which actually was a great satanic Luciferian ritual of these Masonic lodges, of which our politicians are also part. Not all, but some. Some, yes. Some who have surnames like mythical animals. Prehistoric, yes. This is a seminar, The Last War of the Antichrist, the Present and the Future According to the Science of the Spirit, where I analyze in prophetic and geopolitical terms what is happening in this terrible clash between the East, led by Russia, with China and Iran following, and the West, led by the United States of America, to which we Europeans are not just following, but we are in so-called geometric position.
Gog and Magog.
What?
There is a prophecy, Gog and Magog.
It's the heart of this work, where it talks about the Prince of Ross, who is Mr. Vladimir Putin, of Venetian origins. Yes, Putin is Poutine, child and well. He is of Venetian origin. One of his ancestors went to Russia to build the Trans-Siberian Railway, and from there, so Mr. Putin has Italian blood, who is Poutine. In short, when there's trouble, we Italians are there, eh? The seminar, the series of seminars on the Amicizia case, 9 episodes. The most extensive and in-depth study on an exceptional case of massive contact that happened in Italy. Then the great hidden truth about the hollow earth, which also involved the Nazis and the Soviets. A really incredible spy story. Other incredible stories like that, of the immortal prince and the mysteries of Musinais. In short, on the seminars there's really everything. Other seminars, which haven't been inserted in the showcase yet, but which can be acquired anyway, are those on sacred geometry, for example, fractals and the mind of God, and the series on UFOs. Then there's a series where I address the mysteries of the moon, the so-called false moon landing, which in reality is true, but has been polluted, so that people wouldn't ask serious questions about why we haven't returned to the moon. The answer is easy. We haven't returned to the moon, which is jam-packed with extraterrestrial bases, and after all the crazy things that the Americans did there, even trying to bring a plutonium bomb on lunar soil and do an atomic test, the extraterrestrials got their balls busted, and not the Buga ones.
What do you think of Apollo 20?
Another poisoned apple to create confusion. There's no alien ship to recover that.
Mona Lisa.
Yes, Mona Lisa with the cotton swab? No.
The cotton swabs in the nose, in the eyes.
So, a red herring. Do you know Scarantino? A red herring is one of the most classic maneuvers of the Secret Services. Now, what's the problem, friends? The extraterrestrial visit is the most feared thing by the elites because it's a technological force that's uncontrollable and insurmountable. They say it. They said it in 2013 at the World Economic Forum. The Financial Times wrote it in 2021 in an article where it was said that the greatest danger for investment funds is the discovery of extraterrestrial visit. Then they thought about it for a moment, and months ago another article came out where they created investment funds to invest on the reverse engineering of alien technology, which is what whistleblowers like Grush, like Elizondo and others are saying, that for decades the United States of America has had recovered alien spaceships, extraterrestrial bodies, etc., etc. So the seminars on the moon are Moon Top Secret, Conquest of the Moon, The Hidden Truths, where I also address Kubrick's issue, Alien Bases on the Moon. I show the proofs of extraterrestrial activities on our planet. Then there's I inserted it, but it's a free conference. Given the importance of the information, I made it public. The Conquest of the Moon and the Extraterrestrial Implication. a skillfully manipulated reality. It's a conference that I held in Rome on April 14th of 2024. Go watch it. There, the mystery of why we haven't gone to the moon anymore is explained. Let's get to the Buga Sphere, the beginning of the story.
On March 25, 2025, a surprising video starts to circulate on the web. A Colombian girl named Maria films a mysterious sphere of metallic appearance that floats in the sky. At the beginning, the exact location isn't clear.
Eso se ve como algo extraño. O sea. Mueve súper rápido. Es una pelota, no es ni un globo.
But a few days later, a second video, shot by another person, who will later be known as José, shows the same object, and it is then that the place is discovered. We are near the city of Buga, in Colombia. Both videos strike for the clarity with which the object is visible, and for the incredible evolutions it performs in flight. Maneuvers that resemble those of many other similar objects sighted over the years in various parts of the world. Towards the end of the second video, the sphere rapidly descends vertically and seems to land. The man, together with a friend who films the scene, rushes to the place and picks up the object from the ground. The first images reveal complex engravings on the cap and what appears to be some kind of circuit. The object is brought to a company named Germany, specialized in electromagnetic detection, to be analyzed. The intent was to understand its technology and do reverse engineering, perhaps to obtain a scientific or economic advantage. But at the first tests, strange things happen. The flame of the gas torch doesn't even heat the metal. And when water is poured on the surface, which is cold to the touch, it evaporates instantly. Another disconcerting fact: when it was found, the sphere weighed about 2 kilograms, then 6, then almost 10, until it stabilized around 10.10 kilograms. It's hypothesized that an internal system, perhaps linked to anti-gravity, was still active. Under media pressure, Vélez, the man who was in possession of it, decides to entrust it to Jaime Maussan, known Mexican researcher, a decision made to protect himself and his own company. Maussan flies to Colombia, obtains the necessary permits, and brings the sphere to Mexico, where today it's under his custody. On April 29th, the object is shown to the public live on Maussan television. It's a historic moment. For the first time, a potentially extraterrestrial technology ends up in the hands of civilians and is presented openly to millions of people. The implications of what happened could be revolutionary. It's possible that all of this isn't the result of chance. There could exist a precise plan elaborated by extraterrestrial intelligences to prepare humanity for a public and global contact. After the wave of UFO drone sightings above the United States, the case of the Buga Sphere inserts itself as a new powerful proof of the extraterrestrial presence on Earth. And perhaps also this time, behind all this, there are the beings from Apu. The possibilities are all open and the future awaits us, now more than ever.
The
point from which José goes to recover the sphere is a yes. Let's leave them now. Let me go ahead, because in the excursus you'll listen to a tide of So the question's at the end, because I want to show you everything, but there's really a lot. So I'll intoxicate you with information. I was saying the place from which José films is a promontory of about 1,000 meters in height that overlooks the city of Buga, which you see below. So it's located in the Valle del Cauca, so Cauca Valley in Colombia, very close to Cali, about 40, 50 kilometers. The cross could be about 10 meters. And José was more or less in this area. A bit further ahead, and the sphere lands here in front. In this, there's a very important messianic meaning that I haven't managed to develop yet. I'll do it in the coming days because when the extraterrestrials do things, they also send messages. Among other things, in José's video, the cross appears for a moment when the sphere flies over him vertically. When I saw the video for the first time, I thought it was a building, but no, actually it's this big cross, you see, which is located on the promontory that overlooks Buga. So the sphere landed literally at the foot of the cross. The controversies that arose immediately after the publication of Mosan's video, of which you saw a brief excerpt on his TV, Mosan television. Ferocious controversies, also here in Italy, which surprised me because from home, how can you establish just from what you see, from your monitor, if a case is true or not? Real research isn't done like this. Real research is done by going to the places, meeting the people, because only there you have the real perception of what happened. You have to go there. If you can't go there, it's better that you stay quiet. Instead, there are many people, both veterans and newcomers, who have expressed themselves by spouting a lot of nonsense. David Velez, the owner, one of the owners, the major shareholder of the Germany company, which builds very advanced detection devices. You can find water, oil, gold, metals of various kinds and types. They are practically technological dowsing rods or pendulums. That is, this company has managed to map an incredible quantity of frequencies, and the devices it builds are able to detect these frequencies and therefore can find virtually anything. So, Velez in particular has been accused of being the author of the sphere, that is, that the sphere that landed, this one, filmed by Maria and filmed by José. Then we'll see the scenario on the map. These skeptics claim that they weren't the same thing. So basically, this sphere lands, but then one, after. But then, Don José, instead of picking up the real sphere, he replaces it with a Germany sphere. Because the Germany company, according to the fantasies of these people, built spheres to do covert advertising. So at a certain point, David Velez decides to break the silence and releases a long statement from which I extracted. Anyway, on my YouTube channel you can find it in full. Here I extracted only a brief.
When Mosan asked me if he could take away the sphere, I replied, "Sure you can."
Because besides the claim that Velez and his company built spheres passing them off as alien spheres, then, in the case, however, that it was an extraterrestrial sphere, but come on, it's known that the secret services arrive, the CIA, the Pentagon, the KGB, my grandfather, his cousin, the gynecologist, everyone, and they take away the sphere. So it's impossible that Mosan has this sphere. Beyond the fact, but excuse me, we're dealing with civilizations that had built technologies, clearly for 90 years now, to which, to this day, we haven't even been able to touch them. So if there's a sphere that landed, And they didn't take it away with teleportation, with ray X, Y, and Z. Wouldn't there be a plan on the extraterrestrials' part, or is it so difficult to imagine it? They don't get it. Here there's always the mythology of power. So, always the Pentagon, always the CIA, always the secret services of the Russians, of the Japanese, of the Chinese. They are stronger than everyone anyway. No.
Area 51 exists, however, and they made this sphere.
But do you think Area 51 makes a sphere to put it in the hands of David El Potro? Or of poor José?
Well, thing is that it's not functional yet.
But it's not. Now, if you let me go ahead, we'll see if it's functional or not. So, the problem is this, and I say it as a joke. Turn off the tongue instead of the neuron and listen, that then things go ahead. And the picture becomes, because since this object was recovered, many things have been done. Otherwise, the emotion of giving our version of the facts starts instinctively when we don't know the facts. Let's wait to know the facts. Yes. No, now I wasn't referring to you exactly. However, since the audience is sizzling, let's fry little squids that are tastier. So let's listen to David Vélez El Potro, who responds, among various things specifically as to why the secret services could not intervene. In this case, they were beaten to it simply. And there is an exceptional fact that has never happened before in modern history. There is an independent journalist who has understood the importance of this topic, who has his own television, where he can say whatever he likes and pleases. It had never happened before. Because if the sphere ended in the hands of Barry the Bee, or what the hell do I know, of another corrupt or sold-out journalist, it is obvious that the information would not come out. But why does it come out? Because it ends in the hands of a most upright, honest man, whom I have known for almost 30 years. And we are friends, not acquaintances. We are friends. And he said, the only defense against this power that hides the truth from us is to say everything, straight away. In fact, he tried to involve in the investigations prominent American personalities who told him, wonderful, but we must keep everything secret. And he said, no, I will publish everything. As soon as the discovery is made, 5 minutes later, I put it on television. They refused. Because anyway, hello, they are tied, in some way, somehow to certain powers. And so let's listen to David Vélez El Potro. Now we are friends. We will see each other again in Colombia. Go, David. The incredible thing is, an entrepreneur who decides, having an object for which he has been offered a lot of money from all over the planet, as soon as the news had spread, who said, this object belongs to humanity. I won't sell it. I put it in the hands of Mr. Maussan, who is the only one who will not hide it, and will not hide the truth and the information that will emerge from this, from the study of this sphere.
When Maussan asked me if he could take away the sphere, I answered, sure, you came for this. Take it away. Many wonder how Maussan managed to transport such an object by plane from Colombia. How is it possible to risk it on a full plane? Many want to know the truth. They want to know how everything happened. It is simple. When an object falls in your courtyard, only you and your family know about it. No secret agency shows up to confiscate it. Nobody noticed it. It was collected and transported as if it were nothing. Nobody thought about what it was. There is no system that triggers an alarm when something falls from the sky. That is a myth. Because there are many people who, I don't want to use the wrong word because I don't want to be rude, but there are people who lack intelligence. There are people who don't realize that such an object can be transported in a city without anyone noticing so. For this, when we arrived at the airport, we had the permits, we have contacts in the army and in the police. They asked us if this was dangerous. if it could explode or be a harm to humanity. We explained that the object had been in quarantine for 30 days, of which 10 were with me, and another 20 in Germany's buildings, and that it presented no danger. It did not disturb the electronic systems of the plane. It was not dangerous. So we drafted an official declaration. Mosan published a part of it where it says that the object does not represent any threat to humanity and can be transported on any means of transport in total safety. With that documentation, we were granted to board it and bring it to Mexico.
So the facts are very simple. José, who is his cousin, that gentleman you saw going down to collect the sphere, is David's cousin, and he is one who lives selling peanuts, which are delicious, by the way. He packages them, he makes them half caramelized and half salted. They are really good, and lives doing this. He is a poor person, and then in his free time, the weekends, he uses the cousin's instruments and goes around doing tests, looking for ancient coins rather than other things. And when José, with his friend, who to this day remains unknown, spot the sphere, they were testing one of these devices. And in reality, it is this device that begins to activate because the sphere was passing by. That is, the object detected the presence of the sphere that obviously moves in the sky with an energetic field. When the object landed, José ran immediately to collect it. So who saw it? Him and the other person. And that girl who was in a completely different area but did not know that the object had landed. So what did José do? He took it home. He didn't tell anyone. And he was sick. He had nausea, vomit, at which he got scared. He called his cousin. He told him, "Listen, I have this thing that was flying in the sky. You come and get it. You have Germany's labs so you can study it because I got scared." No, it landed. It landed because it is an alien project. It is a project. They are doing tests. Wait, let me carry on. There's still a lot more to tell. So, José takes it, brings it home, feels sick, gets scared, realizes, doesn't know what to do with this object, calls his cousin, tells him, "Come take it," and David brings it to the laboratories. As soon as he brought it to the laboratories, it's not like he just strolled in. They put on the lead suits, shielded with lead, because he has them. When building very sensitive electronic equipment, he needs precisely this type of gear for work. Let's say protective gear. So he used these suits because they didn't know if the sphere emitted radiations. So they did all the tests. And 2 months passed before the sphere got in Mosan's hands. From March 2nd to April 29th are about 2 months. All of March and almost all of April. In those 2 months, the sphere was under quarantine. So they did every test imaginable. And they said this object, beyond the malaise that José suffered, later, a scientist, a Mexican engineer will explain why José was sick, but I held it in my hands. For quite a long time, I didn't report any type of disturbance. So, through a researcher who works with Mosan, who managed to get in contact with him, Mosan called him, and since Mosan is a kind of divinity in all Latin America, he is very well known. Thanks to the fact that all of America, from Central America downwards, and also south of United States, everyone speaks Spanish. So Mosan has this vast audience, which is an enormous number, millions of people. So David Vélez knew Mosan. When Mosan called him, he says, "You are the only person. Come, come, come." So Mosan went there and told him, "Will you sell me the sphere?" And David told him, "No, no, take it away. I will gift it to you, because you are the only person who will tell the truth and will not hide anything. So take it away. I don't want anything, because this object belongs to humanity." Now, when I knew about this and I told it to him, I was amazed, because finding such a person on this planet who refuses money. Now, he said, "Pierre, but I'm fine. I don't want to say I'm rich, but I have properties. I have money. I can't even, for how many requests I have for these devices that I sell, which are cutting edge. The Colombian Germany company is cutting edge at a global level. I can't even satisfy the requests of clients. I sell to Japan, I sell to Chinese, I sell to Americans, I sell to Mexicans. So, I don't need money. Indeed, I have properties that I don't even have time to go there for how many I have. So I don't need money. I'm not that greedy. And then I understand that this truth belongs to everyone. I cannot have it myself. And I know that Mausan is an honest person who will tell everything. And that's what is happening. Now, the sphere. You will have heard, I talked about it a lot, of the invasion of drones in the United States. Many are spaceships, but many are drones. What is a drone? It is a flying object, without a pilot, piloted therefore remotely. So this sphere is essentially a drone, only that it's not terrestrial, it's an extraterrestrial drone. This is where it all happened. This is the Loma de la Cruz, where there is that big white cross that you saw. José was here. Here there is a bit of bush, which is where the sphere landed, and then immediately below, there is the neighborhood of Buga, and here was Maria. So both saw the sphere that came and went, covering these 1.3 kilometers roughly up to the battalion. Batalla, Palace, or Palace, I don't know how it's pronounced, which is the second most important military installation of Colombia, and it is a base protected by anti-drone systems. Indeed, when Mausan went to do the inspection of the landing site, he made a drone fly, but the drone didn't rise more than 50 meters, because above 50 meters there are the interference systems of the barracks that prevent the flight of drones for obvious security reasons of the installation. Instead, José said, the sphere went above without issues. So the anti-drone interference systems that the military of the base use of the battalion did not interfere with the flight of the object. This is a screenshot of the Artillery Battalion Number 3, Batalla Palace, which is located at the outskirts of the city of Buga. We passed in front of it. There were the military on guard. We greeted them. So the sphere also flew above the military installations of the battalion. We see the entrance here, you see? This is the entrance of the military base. The battery died, and the arrow indicates the point of the elevation where José was. So, from the area of the base to the hilltop are 1.3 kilometers of distance. And Vélez also testifies to this.
I am David Vélez El Potro, and I was the one who delivered the sphere to Mausan. They delivered it to me, and Mr. José collected it from the ground. I don't understand. Who else should be involved? Who else is here? I don't understand. Who made the videos? I will tell you something that perhaps you don't know. I am Colombian, and I live near Buga. I have family in Buga, Tuluá, Pereira, Bogotá, Medellín, Cali. I have family all over Colombia, and all my family calls me and tells me, it's incredible what happened. When Mausan arrived in the neighborhood of Buga, Alto Bonito, in the city of the Lord of Miracles, Buga, they tried to take some shots with a small drone, a tiny little thing, to film the area near the high-voltage cables. Because it is supposed, according to what Mr. José tells us, that it had a short circuit, an explosion in contact with a high voltage cable of 10,000 volts. It could be much more. So, this object fell to the ground, destabilized and lost altitude. But the most important and incredible thing is what I will tell you next. When Mr. Maussan wanted to raise the drone to film the area near the cables of high voltage in the city of Buga, the drone could not lift itself, if not for a few meters, because there was a signal block. Indeed, the battalion palace is located nearby, one of the most important military bases of Colombia. This base has technologies that prevent drones from flying in the vicinity. They make them fall. It is the second most important military base of the country and is located at only 30, 40, 50, 70, 100 meters from the impact point of the sphere. So, you tell me, how the hell do you say that it was a drone if the object flew above the battalion palace? It flew above the battalion. If it had been a bomb, it could have caused a lot of destruction and put end to the population of Bugenya. It would have done it easily. But it didn't do any damages. It is not dangerous. Or at least, it didn't come to damage. It is an object that brings a message, a strange technology, something that wants to be understood. Maybe it fell by mistake. Or maybe it landed voluntarily. We don't know yet. What I can tell you, my friends, is not to believe everything that social networks say. It is not advertising. It is not a gimmick, like the monoliths that appeared in many countries. And then it was discovered that they were a marketing gimmick. No, this is not advertising. It is not marketing. I would like to ask all of you if you know a single product of Germany that has been shown in a video. None, because it doesn't interest them. And you know why? Because we are not interested in advertising. We already sell in Peru, Colombia, Mexico, United States, Egypt, Rome, Jerusalem. We sell in all these countries. We have received orders of 500 units, and we said that we cannot produce them all together because we don't have the industrial structure to do it. So tell me, what would be the point of advertising? We have had videos with 5 million views. Again, why would we need advertising? So, my friends, I want to clarify something to you. Here, there is no advertising. Sooner or later, the truth will come out. This object must be studied thoroughly. They have called me from various countries. Also, special greeting to the people of France, with whom we are trying to reach an agreement to make a documentary about this object to broadcast all over Europe. And they asked Maussan and I how much the exclusive would cost. And we answered, there is no exclusive, because this object belongs to the entire world, to the civil population. We will collaborate gladly, but this has no price. Tell me, where's the profit? Where are the sales?
El Potro was contacted by a group linked to certain environments. David didn't know what to do, and these people insisted that the object was theirs, that it was a technology that they were experimenting, that it got away and ended up landing in Colombia, so they demanded the return of the object they claimed belonged to them. Velez got a little scared and called Maussan. He said, Jaime, listen, these people called me. What should I do? Jaime told him, look, respond to them this way. Tell them to wait a moment since you need to go out and buy wrapping paper to send it back to them. Obviously, it was all false and they disappeared. They didn't have... So, what does José do? He collects the object, then he explained it to me when I was there. He collects the object together with his friend. He places it on the grass near the cross. The point is called Loma de la Cruz, and the area is called Alto Bonito, on the outskirts of Buga. Then they call it the City of the Christ of Miracles because in Buga, there is a miraculous Christ that is kept in a basilica approved by the Vatican. And it is really an incredible story of this woman, I believe around 1500, who wished, very poor, wished to have a crucifix at home as protection. She manages to reach the sum, only that in those days, the guards arrive and arrest her neighbor. And she approaches and says, "But why are you taking him away?" And they say, "He has a debt that he can't pay, so we will send him to jail." And as it happened, this debt was equal to the sum that this little woman had collected to buy herself the crucifix. She doesn't think twice. She gives the money for the crucifix to the guards, who free the neighbor. Subsequently, she goes to wash in the river that is there nearby, and while she was washing, she sees something floating that approaches. It was a small crucifix. Overjoyed, she says, "Ah, how beautiful! The Lord has listened to me." She takes this crucifix and brings it home, and puts it in a little box before hanging it. Only that the morning after, the crucifix had grown and had broken through the box. Now it is 1.30 meters tall. We went to visit it. So it is called. Buga is a pilgrimage site, so a place where there is a very strong faith indeed. The day that we were there, it was a holiday, and there was also a very long queue outside that surrounded the cathedral. Everyone was making the line to enter to see the Christ of miracles. The basilica is full of votive offerings, because people go there to pray, then they have healings, miracles of all kinds. So there is a whole messianic connection in this regard there. So, he puts the sphere on the grass, José. You see in the background, you can see the houses of the upper area of Buga. They go to take their luggage that they had left near the cross. And then, José takes back the sphere and brings it home. At this point, no one knew who he was yet. You see here the sphere is about 50 centimeters in diameter. He keeps the sphere in his house, only that then he felt sick. Why? When the sphere flies, it generates a field that, among other things, is quite visible in the video analyses. You see, the object is surrounded by that halo because it is an ionized field. And this is Maria's video. So, both in Maria's video and in José's video, you can see the ionizing field that the sphere produces with the energy that it develops. And that, in fact, is the cause of José's malaise. But when the sphere stays still for a certain amount of time, this ionizing field dissipates and the sphere becomes harmless. That is, it doesn't give any kind of side effect, let's say, of malaise anymore. And this concept is explained here by engineer Rodolfo Garrido, who is the head of the team. I have known Rodolfo for many years. We are friends. Truly a great scientific mind.
And not only that, it generates it autonomously.
Many people approaching report headaches.
Yes, because it is like a magnet. It emits an electrostatic field. This object generates its own energy and produces an energetic field.
But now is there still energy inside?
I believe that currently the sphere is inactive.
Really?
Yes.
Has it gradually lost its energy?
Exactly. It doesn't rotate anymore.
When water was poured on it and vapor was released, did it still have energy?
Certainly, and I will explain why. If you have an electrostatic field, this is composed of negative ions, known as anions. When water is introduced at molecular level, so H2O molecules, in a field saturated with anions, that is negative charges, the water itself generates additional anions. In this state, the water stops behaving as such and transforms into hydroxide. Hydroxide is highly irritating. If inhaled, it irritates the respiratory system. If ingested, it has effects on the digestive system, particularly on the mucous membranes. If the respiratory system is irritated, dizziness manifests. If the digestive one is hit, vomiting can arise. And what did the involved person experience? Dizziness and vomiting. The symptoms match perfectly.
Here, so the reasons why José felt sick and the others didn't, because once the sphere's field dissipated, it became harmless. As soon as I learned of the news, so Jaime gives the news on April 29th, I get organized within a few days. At the beginning of May, I leave immediately to go to Mexico because I understood immediately that it was an extraordinary event. Here I am in the Mausan television offices, near Jaime, and I have the alien sphere in my arms. Now it is true that the sphere touched the 10,000 volts cables, but it has been 90 years that civilians don't have an alien object in their hands. Access was allowed only to the military because there was an attempt to ensure that world powers would accept, confronted with the evident technological superiority of these craft, that governments worldwide, especially of the major powers, should implement a program of revelation and civilian preparation to the news that the cosmos is inhabited and we are visited by extraterrestrial civilizations. So, since we have very certain documentary proofs of their technologies, anti-gravity, teleportation, dematerialization, spatial dislocation, temporal dislocation, etc., etc., even if the sphere had had a hypothetical anomaly, they would make it disappear in a split second. It wouldn't even touch the ground. Because being in contact, as a remotely piloted drone, as soon as the sphere touched the electric cable, they would take it to the spaceship. So the fact that the sphere didn't crash under the cable, this is the answer that I give you. Because if, as you say, it had fallen, the sphere would fall under the high-tension cables. Instead, it made another little tour and then landed in front of Mr. José at the foot of the cross. So let's try, I repeat, to activate the neuron before activating the tongue, because then we risk looking foolish. So listen to me, because I still have many things to say, and we'll do the questions at the end. This is a brief video. We just arrived in Mosan's office. Here, friends, the beautiful, marvelous extraterrestrial sphere. Who knows of our brothers? Another very strange anomaly. When José now, in the video I showed you, when José collects the sphere, so José is smaller than me and has a significant spinal problem. So he can't carry heavy things, let's say, anything of significant weight. Though he collects the sphere, you can see in the video, he puts it under his arm and takes it away. In the original video, the friend who films tells him, "How much does it weigh?" And José answers, "A couple of kilos." Now someone could think that it is a way of saying, "No." We did a test and I told him, "José, how did you manage to say that it weighs 2 kilos? And he told me, "Pierre, I weigh peanuts every day. I am a living scale." I told him, "We have to do an experiment." Since we were at the airport and we all had trolleys, suitcases, I say, "Now you tell us the weight of all the suitcases." Oh, he didn't miss by more than 100 grams on suitcases of 23, 24, 20 kilos. He never missed by more than 100 grams. 23, 20, 17. Then we put them on the airport scale. Damn, they all matched. So when he says 2 kilos, it was 2 kilos. Then it arrives at Germany, 6 kilos. Then after a few days, 9 kilos. Now at Mosan's, it has stabilized. It weighs 10.10 kilograms. So how can an object vary in weight? Evidently, it has technology capable of varying the gravitational fields. These are our own photos of the sphere of Buga, so-called. This is the chip. This is a very pure copper of this circuit that is supposed to have antenna transceiver functions, and these 2 pins, let's say vertical. The others you see are all curved. These cross pins are supposed to be the stabilization circuits, because the object always flies with the north hemisphere upwards and rotates at high speed on itself. The object then has characteristics that for me are very important. The object has very high technology, but at the same time these incisions are all made by hand. You see here, Even 2 circles were made, this one here and this one here, to put these symbols inside, that are surely an unknown alphabet, but we have a recent testimony of an American Green Beret who was brought inside a military base where they keep alien technology. Before the Buga Sphere came out, he is interviewed by an American researcher and then also by Stephen Greer. He said, "I saw the symbols of the Buga Sphere on other alien technology that is kept by the American government." This is the detail of the cap of the North Hemisphere of the sphere. You see this chip that encloses some very important knowledge. This is the object seen. So here there are the incisions, and this is the equatorial zone with these grooves and with these dark round pins that are very, very important in the sphere's technology. We see an enlargement. Here it is. And this is the point where the sphere touched the 10,000 volts cable. When you saw the video that the sphere is in Germany's laboratories and they pour water on it, it's because they were washing it, because the spot where it touched the high voltage cables was still blackened from the electrical spark of when it touched the cable. And so they poured some water on it. But as the engineer says, being the electrostatic field still present, the water evaporates because this field splits the water molecules, creating anions. This is an enlargement, you see, of the impact point with the cable at 10,000 volts, and immediately a message arrives from the extraterrestrials given to Giovanni Bongiovanni's father, that is, to Giorgio Bongiovanni.
Extraterrestrial landing. Addaura communicates. Look at these images. The extraterrestrial civilization Apu has left proof of its visit on Earth. Not motu proprio, but by decision of the interstellar confederation of beings of light captained by the solar geniuses that Addaura represent. This scientific proof is not for all humanity, because we have reason to believe that it won't take it into serious consideration, but surely for all those who approach our truth, that is, to our extraterrestrial presence and to who we are, where we come from, why we come, and what our mission is. Best wishes to all researchers who approach our reality, to all sympathizers and to all spiritual brothers who will awaken also thanks to this undeniable evidence. Peace. Yours, Addaura.
Addaura was the light being who was also the mentor and the counselor of Eugenio Siragusa. Once it ended up in the hands of Maussan, in the middle of these fierce controversies, by internet trolls, in Mexico, the first serious scientific analyses were beginning. Here we have a video that summarizes them, the first ones. So one of the first analyses was to do the tomography of the object, because obviously one tries to study it without breaking it, without opening it. And today we have non-invasive technologies like tomographies that are able to let us see the inside of the human body, but also of a non-biological object. Then radiographies. All the researchers who have analyzed the sphere were left bewildered by its peculiarities. But what's inside still remains unclear. Surely they are materials of different density and different transparencies both in the tomography and in the radiographies. Hardness tests have also been done. It is an aluminum alloy that is twice as hard as space aluminum, but presents characteristics that are not explainable according to our metallurgical knowledge. Anyway, we will see them later. In this case, the work is directed by the engineer David Avila Roldan, a fantastic person, and with whom we are constantly in communication regarding the developments of the research on this object. Here are the thermal analyses. These are the metallographic tests to establish the composition of the alloy that composes the external shell of the sphere. But the instrument was not able to detect fully. Then the sphere was brought to the university that performed more thorough tests, and they found some very important peculiarities. These are the little circles, circular pins that are in the area of the equator. This is Roldan. He is an engineer who has 50 years of experience precisely in the field of metallurgy. He told me, I recognize the alloys just by the smell. I already know what they are. For example, in the 3D reconstruction, he was not able to understand why the lasers, even those at very high definition, do not manage to perceive the engravings that are on the external cap and the chip. That is, they cannot see it. They do not understand why. They were not able to understand why. But the scanners that they used were not able to map all those engravings that are on the cap of the sphere. The results of the first analyses were these. The 16 pins are of copper at high density and hardness, and some have a direct connection to the inside of the sphere, those that are on the external cap. In the perimeter belt, so here, 2 of the pins of the black little circles are holes that enter into the sphere. The sphere is made up of an external metallic shell and 2 other internal layers with different densities. No signs of welding or joining can be found, despite the fact that it was understood, this was understood by Roldan, that the northern and the southern hemisphere were fused in different times and in different ways, meaning during the cooling process, but they do not understand how the hell they united them, because no junction marks are visible. The metallic surface of the sphere presents different temperatures, especially beneath the crescent shapes. Now, aluminum is an extremely heat-conductive metal, yet at the short distance between one crescent and the other, different temperatures were detected. Since the sphere was recovered, as I said before, it has presented weight variations from 2 kilos to 6.9 to 9, and now about 10.10 kilos. Inside as well, the sphere shows different temperatures, and it has also interacted with the equipment used for the analyses, sometimes varying their values, but no one knows how. Let's see some of the tests results. Here we see, you see, the 2 holes, let's say the 2 internal little circles that then are holes that go towards the inside while the others are only exposed towards the outside. These are the copper pins. Those of the chip that you see enter inside the metallic shell. Then it is unclear to what they are connected. We see them also here. In a lateral radiography, here is a radiography from above. These are the 2 pins that enter inside the sphere. Here is a tomography, you see. There is a material, but they can't determine what it is beyond that. These are the 2 pins that enter inside the sphere. They are thinking about it, but it hasn't been done yet. To insert a micro camera in one of these pins, and with the micro camera to try and see also inside the sphere, but with the tomography that, as you know, works in layers, so it is as if it managed to cut into slices. the object that it analyzes, in the center of the sphere, this device, was found. This is the equator of the sphere, meaning this area. So let us say the sphere in this case is lying down. So it is overturned. This should be the north hemisphere and this the south hemisphere. And there is this device that was found in the tomographies. So this would be the correct position. So this is the equator of the sphere, and the device, when the sphere flies, is found in this position here. According to engineer Garrido, the device links to the discoveries of Nikola Tesla and should be no other than a tower of, so-called Tower of Wardenclyffe. That was a tower that generated electrostatic energy with which Tesla, building various ones in different points of the world, wanted to electrify the entire planet without wires. So very probably, according to engineer Garrido, inside the sphere, since an electrostatic field was found, inside the sphere there is a Tesla tower, more or less. That is the device that generates the energy that then allows the sphere to levitate. According to Garrido, it is wrong to use the term flying because, more than flying, the sphere levitates. Let us say, with this technology, it loses the weight. That is, it no longer has weight and can move at will, without any problem. And José's malaise, due to an ionized field that generates anions. And all the consequences of the case would be, let's say, a clue. The curious thing is that going back to analyze the mythical Vimana of ancient India, we see that in the central axis, in fact, there are structures that are essentially identical to Tesla towers. So they hypothesize that in antiquity, these technologies or these principles were well known. But at a certain point, as the analyses carry out, it was decided to scrape that black layer that covers the pins that are found at the equator of the sphere, and there was an exceptional discovery. And engineer Roldan says it.
Here we have sufficient elements to affirm that we find ourselves in front of a very advanced technology.
So, what we are observing now on the screen is exactly what is detected live from the camera through the digital microscope pointed at the sphere with a magnification of 1,000 times.
Exactly. It is fascinating to find all this in one of the dark points that initially we had analyzed to understand if it was metallic material. The result instead revealed the presence of a polymer, and look at what is there now.
And the optical fiber is inserted in the polymer?
Exactly. There it is.
Multiple optical fibers.
Yes, multiple optical fibers. There are several, Jaime. We can count them right now, in this point.
So, first of all, the presence of these fibers clearly reveals that there is technology there, and this is indisputable. Now, according to the expert we have consulted, a fiber optics expert, this type of fiber is used as a sensor for atmospheric events, humidity, temperature, pressure, and so on. If therefore it is designed for the atmosphere, it means that these sensors were inserted in a device thought to operate in an atmospheric environment. And that's precisely where the object was seen in levitation.
So the sphere is no other than a detection probe that uses fiber optic technology. These are the close-ups of the pins. That one, I repeat, was scraped. So this black polymer was removed. They thought it was something else, but it turned out to be a polymer. It was scraped and it was found that it is crammed full of optical fibers of various dimensions. We are looking at micrometric dimensions here. Another objection that arrived from the usual internet trolls. But these are reflections. Are they reflections? This is the cable that covers the optical fiber. Here we have the crystalline fiber that sure reflects the light of the microscope, but because there is the optical fiber. Also because there are of various dimensions, that is, of various quantities. Here they are all 6 strands, but there are others with 8. And then if they were reflections, wouldn't they all be the same? Here instead we have optical fibers of various kind that are immersed in a material that should be bakelite. That is an insulating material that was used many years ago. And in the various areas of the pin, you see there are many, I repeat, of various dimensions. Even here, look how many there are. Over 50 were counted. In that small little circle that could be half a centimeter at most. And engineer Garrido explained that the dimension of the optical fiber corresponds to a different type of use. That is, each optical fiber, based on the diameter it has, detects different types of values. So we have the polymer covering what we could call the main cable that covers the optical fibers, these bright ones. In this case, we have 6 optical fibers, 6 elements, and this all around is bakelite. So the sphere presents advanced levitating technology that moves in the air without any interference of gravity. But the impressive thing is that further analyses were then done, and it was discovered that even in the areas of cracking that there are along the equator of the sphere, other optical fibers are present. So the sphere is literally crammed full of optical fibers. I am speaking in this case of this area here. That would be these areas here, these dark areas. They are dark because there is evidently bakelite. And here also were put optical fibers. So this sphere is like a big eye that by turning scans the environment continuously. Now, this discovery, in reality, does nothing other than demonstrate what had been said even back in the 70s by the contactee from Catania, Eugenio Siragusa. Another important thing. Many think that optical fiber is used only for internet connection. That's not the case. Optical fiber in human industry has been used for many years precisely as a sensor. And we have various types of sensors, 2 types in particular. So beyond the traditional use to transport internet data, but actually, I repeat, the optical fiber itself is a sensor because optical fibers detect the slightest variations of light, and light always carries information. So the optical fiber is able to collect that information, which is then decoded, just as we decode the light signals it carries, which then become on the internet, on the computer, images, videos, audio, and so on. We mainly have 2 types of optical fiber sensors. We have extrinsic sensors, in this case the optical fiber, simply transports the information detected by an external sensor. Then we have intrinsic optical fiber sensors, which are the optical fibers themselves. They are the sensor. So, in this case, the target is to measure maybe the gas pressure. Here are some examples of the use of optical fiber that is used to measure intensity, phase, polarization, wavelength, propagation time. and practical uses are measuring temperature, pressure, mechanical deformations, liquid or gas levels, vibrations, magnetic and electric fields, movement and rotation. So, the use of optical fiber as a sensor, exactly as engineer Garrido said, is now a common practice. And this is the message that Eugenio Siragusa received in the distant 1977.
Ali dall'astronave Crystal Bell.
Ali, from the Crystal Bell spaceship. Clarification. The frisbees, or synchronizers as you call them, are instruments of advanced technology, carrying a micro-brain with genius faculties and powers inconceivable to you. This small, prodigious device entirely replaces all the activities of a brain, with frequencies greater than those possessed by an evolved cerebral mass. It has ample faculties to scrupulously examine all interior and exterior structures of living beings and various objects, constituted of organic and inorganic matter, and to probe with absolute precision all the dynamisms that the subject or object develops and expresses in given circumstances. We have two types of frisbees or synchronizers, to use your words. Of the first, we have given you brief mentions of its operation. The second has specific functions of connection and programming with our operative helpers who live among you. This second device could be defined programmer. Both possess the ability to penetrate thickness and hardness of any type of matter without altering its original structure and form. How this happens we are not allowed to reveal, even if it is easy to intuit it from the previous messages by Brother Huara. Today in temporary regenerative cycle. Until later. Regards, Ali.
So this message anticipated that these objects that the extraterrestrials call synchronizers are essentially detection probes that can scan the visible and invisible, penetrate matter of any type and hardness, and also change the state of their own matter. So they can become energy, they can become invisible, and they're used by extraterrestrials to film and monitor all the super-secret meetings of world elites who plot very bad things, often also to our detriment. Given the importance of the discoveries made up to that point, they decided to involve one of the most prestigious universities of all Latin America, the National Autonomous University of Mexico City, the UNAM. It is a very prestigious university that also collaborates, for example, with NASA and with CERN. The sphere was brought to the university laboratories, and after the accurate studies made by the expert academics, you see, UNAM, academic experts of the university. The university has released a document that is a quite extensive report, 50 pages, of all the tests that were made on the Buga Sphere, and the university also confirms the presence of optical fiber in the dark pins of the equator. So the presence of the optical fiber is confirmed. These are all the analyses made by the university. The index, therefore, hardness and magnetic field, metallographic analysis. The metallographic analysis includes the section that covers the optical fiber discovery. Chemical analysis by X-ray fluorescence and luminescence analysis and thermogravimetric analysis. This analysis is very important, and I will explain it to you later. This is the summary table that relates specifically to the optical fiber. The percentage of areas with optical fibers is about 42%. The count of optical fibers is 52 per circle in the analyzed circle. The mean diameter is 210 microns. The maximum diameter was 350 microns. the minimum diameter 40 microns. So we have fiber at micrometric level. The office that was interested then in publishing the document is the Secretariat, is the Secretaría de Vinculación, which in fact is the office of the department that deals with connecting the university with the outside world, including public institutions, companies, industries, and civil society, and managing conventions, agreements, and collaborations with other institutions, and therefore, in fact, it is the institute or office of the university that also deals with the connection with the media. In this case, being a television, the document is signed precisely by the Secretariat, by this Secretariat here. And UNAM, I repeat, is one of the most important academic institutes of all Latin America. It is the most important of Mexico and boasts collaborations with institutions like NASA, UNESCO, CERN, etc. And it is in the list of the 150 most prestigious universities in the world. This because someone said, hey, but anyway, those analyses, it's from the University of the Third Age, of the elderly, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, think about what level people's idiocy reaches because you just need to go on the internet, write UNAM, or today there is ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, and it tells you everything, but nothing, usual problem. Stupidity, exactly, thank you Giovanni, stupidity. I mean, really, now, the majority of ufologists are all against it. From home, or other riffraff. That chatter's nonsense and they didn't even manage to read the UNAM report. Hey, but the university didn't say it was alien. But do you think a university would tell you that that is an alien object? Are you stupid? The university has confirmed the technical data. I mean, that object contains advanced technology. It doesn't tell you who made it, firstly because they don't know, secondly they didn't recover it themselves, and thirdly, it is already a miracle that a university of that level made a report on an object that all of Mexico knew was in Jaime Maussan's hands, and that he says is extraterrestrial. Yet they did it anyway, and released the report because, here's another important fact, friends, I have traveled for many years in Latin America, and it is not only the New World, as they say, which then is a world that has been raped and violated by European invaders, Italians included. But it is the new world, it is the world of the future, because the open-mindedness, the human quality of those peoples, they don't even see us. Speaking with university professors, scientists from various Latin American countries, Colombians included, I find high-level people with whom to speak of ethics, of spirituality, of social conscience, is normal. Here instead, pieces of cold ice, full of themselves, arrogant, stupid, snob, riffraff. So this world where we live will disappear, because God will tear it to pieces, because we are not civilized. It is true that they are peoples who suffer, because they are crushed by the violence of Westerners, but they have an internal freedom that we can only dream of. So I feel much better there than here.
La Sicilia ha I suoi pro e I suoi contro.
Sicily has its pros and cons. Now, if there is a place where I travel very often, it is Sicily, because my spiritual father was Eugenio Siragusa, so I owe this awakening of mine to Sicily. So, Sicily closely resembles the Latin American countries, because the extremes that exist here also exist there. Here in Sicily you find enlightened, extraordinary people like Falcone, Borsellino, and many other artists of very high caliber. But there is also great social suffering, great social injustice, great crime. Over there it is the same thing. But you see, where there is stagnation, there's no hope. Where there are contrasts, at least there is life that stirs and struggles. Where there is not this contrast, there is death. If I go to Germany, if I go to very wealthy Switzerland, over there, I see emptiness. I see zombies walking, people without emotion, without stimuli, very high levels of suicide. Instead, in Latin countries, that are our heirs nonetheless, let's say especially here, of the Latin world of Roman origin. Life swarms, and there is much more cultural freedom. In the West, Maussan television would never exist. A journalist with that fame and that economic affluence would never show his face for the truth, risking his career, his money, and he does it. Here, what do we have? Arrogant, stupid, imbeciles, scoundrels, braggarts, chatterers, fabulators, self-celebratory, riffraff, sold and bribed or that anyway sell themselves to the highest bidder. Here we have engineer Garrido. Extraordinary person, he too possesses a humanity and warmth that are truly fantastic, as he explains, and comments on the university's discovery of optical fiber.
The methodical study conducted with cutting-edge technology by Mexican scientists is providing very important data indicating the complexity of the internal structure of this sphere, which has turned out to be more complex than initially believed. The investigation on the Buga Sphere, an anomalous object whose origin is to be determined, whose composition and purpose are the object of study, and around which an enormous controversy has been generated, has now found a breakthrough. The scientists from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, the UNAM, have completed an in-depth analysis of its components using state-of-the-art technology. The result has been surprising. In some points, located in the central part of the sphere, extremely thin structures have been identified, compatible with high-precision optical fibers, a discovery that raises a disturbing question. How can such sophisticated technology be embedded in an object that predates so many of our technological breakthroughs? Engineer Rodolfo Garrido walks us through this remarkable confirmation.
Engineer Rodolfo Garrido, you're holding the university report on the Buga Sphere. What does it say?
When the analysis was conducted, Jaime, I was there in the lab. Based on what we knew, it was theorized that there could be optical fibers, but there was no certainty. It was therefore decided to take a sample, scraping some portions of the sphere's polymer. About 6 or 7 milligrams of material were collected in a bag, which was then subjected to more thorough analyses with more sophisticated and powerful instrumentation. At that point, it was possible to identify the presence of fibers. The images showed damaged optical fibers, compromised by the mechanical procedure used for the sample extraction. Subsequently, following this discovery, we can affirm that the investigation conducted by the university did indeed detect and confirm the presence of optical fibers.
How important is all of this?
For me, it is very important because the optical fiber, this is no longer part of the university report. It is my personal consideration, and we will explore this issue further with other experts. The optical fiber has numerous applications. As a sensor, it can detect atmospheric conditions, temperature, pressure, humidity, but it can also detect water, its conditions and its components, as well as soil and even biological tissues. The presence of fiber within the sphere clearly has significant relevance because this fiber gives it not only technical capabilities, but intelligent ones as well. Why? Because someone is observing through it and collecting information, and this gives it smart features. Therefore, it's clearly our duty to continue the work based on the results we've obtained. Now it is up to us to continue on other fronts to understand where this investigation on the fibers can lead us. For example, to verify if inside a Faraday cage, reactions manifest, to experiment with different frequencies, to observe possible responses. I don't know. We must experiment. I repeat, what we know is less than what remains to be discovered. It is something that is unknown to us, and we are learning as we investigate and study. This is the process in which we find ourselves.
Finding optical fiber in a sphere whose landing has been video recorded, a video already analyzed by various researchers who have confirmed its authenticity, and discovering that this sphere contains optical fibers. That 52 of these fibers have been identified by the university, that their thickness and dimensions have been determined. Where does it lead us?
We don't know, and it is precisely what we must try to understand. We don't know who is on the other side controlling this sphere, nor for what reason they are collecting the detected information, nor where it is sent, nor what the purpose of the transmission is. All this is unknown to us. At the moment, there's no conclusive data that can point us to a specific purpose. We have only the data from the excellent research carried out by the university, and we must carry on from here to understand where the investigation will lead us. I want to emphasize that the university holds the utmost merit and prestige for the integrity and quality of its work. This is the most respected academic institution featuring doctorate-level professors and world-renowned researchers. They have carried out their task. They have made the detections, conducted the analyses, and concluded their part. Now it is up to us, independently from UNAM, to continue in the research path. After all, our professional work consists precisely in continuing to search, to raise new hypotheses, to explore, to involve other minds, other approaches, different visions, or minds that can contribute to understanding a technology that, at this moment, we are just beginning to decipher.
Is this discovery historically significant?
Yes, it is. Because, again, what's found in the sphere is not just any technology, and especially the fact that this technology is present in the sphere implies that inside it there is science, and therefore intelligence. This arouses great interest, and personally I ask myself, what is the intelligence that is behind all this? For what purpose is all this done? Why do they investigate in different parts of the world? Why are these spheres everywhere, observing everything or trying to monitor everything? With what purpose? I don't understand it. However, I believe that one day we will have to get to a conclusion.
Without doubt, this discovery by the university, the identification of optical fibers, and this confirmation confers another level, another dimension to all the speculation that had spread at a worldwide level, offering certainty and especially allowing other researchers to join to find all the answers we are looking for.
Yes, with this discovery, the sphere finally has a name and an identity. It is no longer just any sphere. Now we must proceed with maximum seriousness and professionalism in the next steps, so as not to lose the direction nor the objective, in order to reach truly significant conclusions that allow us to authenticate its function or the reason for its presence here.
The university study, meaning the university, before approving the study's publication considering the extremely delicate theme that concerns precisely the extraterrestrial one, has asked Mosan that the original document were, how do you say? Authenticated by a notary, and only after the authentication by an important notary of Mexico City, the document has been made public on the website of Jaime Maussan's television, scientific report on the Buga Sphere, made by the National Autonomous University of Mexico. So the document is freely available on Maussan's site, where basically this is the home of the website. You see? You go to the section, the Buga Sphere, you click on it, and an entire page opens where there is the document. But not only that, there is also a section with a playlist with all the video reports. Until the other day, there were 29 video reports dedicated to the Buga Sphere, so there are hours and hours of broadcasting with the tests results and analyses on the Buga Sphere. Obviously, one must know Spanish, but with today's online resources, you can still manage, even with YouTube subtitles, to understand what is said. Particularly significant is the thermogravimetric analysis, because taking from this pin a sample of the optical fiber, it has been found that the optical fiber has a maximum operating range of 70 degrees, because at 73.69 degrees, the fiber begins to deteriorate until it is completely destroyed around 520 degrees. But obviously, if it begins to deteriorate at 73 degrees, it means that the fiber, to remain intact, must operate at a maximum temperature of 70 degrees. It cannot go beyond because it deteriorates. This fact has been contested by some who have said, "Here, this is the proof that the sphere is terrestrial." I don't understand with what logic, because if the fiber deteriorates at 70 degrees, it is not extraterrestrial. You tell me, what could possibly be the logic behind such nonsense? Because I don't understand it. But beyond this, since idiocy is everyone's prerogative, so if one is an idiot, at most we have him treated. The amazing thing are the qualities of this alloy, which has a very high percentage of silicon. So it is an aluminum-silicon alloy, but which gives a quality that allows it good functioning in the dissipation of heat. So in fact, the shell of the sphere is a perfect radiator that maintains the constant temperature of the object. So, the external object is the thermal shield that prevents that the fiber can exceed that operating temperature range. This is extraordinary and does not fall within our current scientific capabilities, because Engineer Roldan, while we were there, showed me with the thermometer. He tells me, "You see, the sphere has been in this office for hours and hours. In this office there is a temperature," now I don't remember how many degrees they were. The sphere, which is of aluminum alloy, does not absorb temperature. That is, if we take a piece of aluminum, we put it in a room, after an hour, that aluminum has the same temperature as the room. Anyone who has aluminum windows and doors knows this very well. It is like having neither doors nor windows, because when it's cold, you freeze. When it's hot, you die from heat. So aluminum is an exceptional thermal conductor. Not in this case. That is the sphere. Wherever you put it, it always maintains its temperature. So it is a thermal shield. Impressive. And it happened to me. While I was there, I was outside Mosan's office, and it was full of people. There were the Americans. There were a lot of people. I said, "Okay, let me step outside for a moment." And leaning on the door, there was this guy who held in his hand a kind of hairdryer. So I went up to him, intrigued, and said, "What is this stuff you have in your hand?" And he said, "Come, come, let me show you. And I'll show you the footage." So far, this thing has not come out. So it is a new document that only I have at the moment, since I don't know if he ever got to talk to Mosan. Look. He places his hand on the table. Do you see the thermal imprint? It was a thermal camera. Now he places his hand on the sphere. Look at the hand. Nothing remains. The sphere does not absorb heat. It dissipates it instantly. So, the sphere... Look, that's a globe that Mosan has. Do you see the thermal imprint? Instead, the sphere doesn't absorb temperature. So, it's the perfect shield to keep the optical fiber, which are the sphere's sensors, at the right temperature for operation in whatever environment it finds itself in, so it is perfectly shielded and protected by its shell of this particular alloy of aluminum and silicon. You see? This is the darker crescent. This is the round little circle this here. He has just removed his hand. These are the reflections of the lights of the room. But the thermal imprint of the hand he placed there didn't remain, even though on a regular table he held it just a few seconds. And the thermal imprint had remained. Instead, the sphere does not absorb any type of temperature. That is, its temperature remains constant. And so all the heat that is generated in any environment in which it finds itself does not influence the optical fiber that always works at optimal temperature.
In tutto questo, gli extraterrestri non è che sono stati lì a pettinare.
In all this, the extraterrestrials haven't been twiddling their thumbs, so more videos have begun surfacing, showing other spheres. The first is this one that has been recorded in a small town, a few kilometers from Buga, which David Velis has also mentioned. It is called Tulua. Basically, there are farmers who are plowing the land. And here, you see, there is the sphere. Look at the evolution it makes. It stays a bit still. Then it begins to rise and to move the way these objects know how to. Look how it descends. It descends very low. Look. It rises. It descends again. It rises. These movements are incompatible with those of any drone because it has been said that it could be any sphere attached to a nylon thread and carried by a drone. But there's no pendulum effect you'd expect by objects tied to a thread. Then the Buga Sphere weighs 10 kilos, can you imagine? Beyond the fact that then it has varied weight. So here, the sphere in reality has shot away. But curiously, when they suddenly increase the speed of the cell phones, so evidently a signal is generated in the moment when the sphere accelerates rapidly all of a sudden, that blocks the recording. Afterwards, Don Mario sees it again, returns to the sphere, and this time films it vertically. This footage is from May 7th, José's video, who then collected the sphere of March 2nd, so 3 months have passed, and the spheres reappear right in the area of near Buga.
Vicino a Buga.
You see how it moves.
Vedete come si muove, tipico movimento
Typical movement.
che se ne infischia della gravità.
That doesn't care about gravity.
Quindi una vera e propria manifestazione.
So a true manifestation, a very clear footage. To this day, Don Mario doesn't want to come out. The Colombians are very reluctant to show their face because they fear being ridiculed. Here, Don Mario has lost it, doesn't see it anymore. They fear being ridiculed, and so they are afraid to come out in the open. In fact, José came out publicly only on June 22nd. So March, April, May, June, after some months, he was convinced to show his face because he understood that it was a serious thing, so not only he presented himself in Mexico, an event I will talk about, Don Mario managed to also take 3 photos with an iPhone 11. He filmed, and also took 3 photos that were then analyzed. The most important analyses are done by us here in Italy. which we then send to Maussan, who publishes them on his television. The analyses are done by friend and collaborator Sante Pagano. Then, I did the editing. Giorgio Di Stefano did them, who is here in the room. I don't know if he's still here. And also other collaborators like Tommaso Cocchetto. Then we send them to Mexico. And I repeat, they get published. Another even more incredible footage, again, was made in the small town of Yumbo, which is right on the outskirts of the city of Cali, you see, about 43 kilometers. This is the most beautiful footage in history, because so close and so clear, flying spheres had never been filmed. The sphere, you see, is identical to the Buga one, and this footage demonstrates that the hypothesis of the researchers, that is, that the spheres rotate on themselves, is confirmed because, in the video, you can see very well that the sphere rotates on itself. Among other things, the round pins of the equator give that stroboscopic effect that we see in the rims of car wheels, when sometimes they seem to rotate backwards, compared to the direction of movement. The footage is really amazing. There are two sections because this is the first one, of only 13 seconds because the witness, whose name is William Zuniga, was very excited. So he was zooming, and at a certain point the recording turns off. Then he notices and turns it back on. So there are two videos. The first one is the clearer one. You see already here, you can see that the sphere spins on itself. He is an engineer who was conducting surveys in a sugarcane field to build irrigation systems. I was there. And this is the longer footage. The object at a certain point descends, enters inside the sugar cane, and you hear the noise as it passes through the canes. Then on my YouTube channel, I will publish all the complete analyses we have done on these exceptional footages. In fact, the object accelerates as it moves. They have a really amazing movement capacity. Look how it tilts, how the area tilts. Do you see? It's not clear why, but these objects seem partly handmade. You also notice the stroboscopic effect of the pins. Do you see? So the objects rotate quickly on their own axis and scan the environment by continuously rotating. But then something happens, which I noticed, that while he was fiddling with the cell phone screen, as he zooms, William takes a photo in 4K, which is this one, which manages to perfectly capture the sphere still. So I saw this frame at Maussan's, then I saw it from Zuniga's cell phone, then from that of David El Potro. I said, but this isn't a frame, this is a photo. I said, can you send it to me? They sent it to me. And I opened it on Photoshop. It's a photo in 4K. So I called Maussan and told him, Jaime, but here there's also a photo in 4K. Not only do we have a video, actually 2 videos, which are really one video, and they're exceptional, but we also have a photo where you can see very clearly that it's an object basically identical to the Buga Sphere. So what do the extraterrestrials want to tell us? They want to tell us that the Buga Sphere is theirs, and that they have many such spheres, so it's their project that they want to confirm, with these footages that they allow these people to make, that really the Buga Sphere is theirs. It's their artifact. We've done analyses on this too, but we're going a bit over time. So I'll reread that message that I made you listen to at the beginning, in the video. The frisbees are synchronizers, because we also have synchronizers of discoidal shape, but today it's mainly the spherical ones that travel, are instruments of advanced technology carrying a microbrain with genius capabilities and powers for you. That is us, inconceivable. This small prodigious device entirely replaces the activities of a brain with frequencies greater than those possessed by an evolved cerebral mass. It has ample faculties to scrutinize scrupulously, that is, analyze all the interior and exterior structures of living beings, and of various objects. So they are detection probes. And today, the discovery of optical fiber has demonstrated it in all aspects. On June 22nd, Mausan held an international press conference with very important personalities like Stephen Greer. There's a video, but I'll skip ahead. I also had the opportunity to take part in a television program. There's me, and it's called Cara Cara. There's the friend researcher and television presenter Johanan Diaz Vargas. There's engineer David Roldan. There's Nacho Rojo, a researcher from Barcelona, Spain, who is also collaborating in the research on the case. This is William Zuniga, the author of the video we just saw from Yumbo. This is José Arias, the one who collected and brought the sphere to David Vélez El Potro, who is right there. So we made a debate program called Face to Face, Cara Cara, where we expressed our various opinions. After the stay in Mexico, I had the opportunity to interview Roldan again. I also interviewed the very important American lawyer Daniel Sheehan, lawyer who's 80 years old today, but he was inside the Watergate case, inside the Pentagon Papers, and he's a lawyer who is defending the American whistleblowers who speak of the illegal cover-up by the American government of alien spaceships and alien bodies recovered. After Mexico, I went to Colombia, together with Vélez, Zuniga, and Arias. And I wanted to go to the places. This is Yumbo. And we are going. There was William waiting for us, you see. And this is the sugarcane field where he made that exceptional video. And there we reconstructed the whole scene. We are in the editing phase because it's so much material, it takes time. We reconstructed the whole event he filmed. This is very important to give testimony and relevance to the case. So, research is done like this. I have been doing research like this for 35 years. I don't do it staying at home. This is the pylon of the 10,000 volts power line, which is identical to the one in Buga that the sphere hit. After the surveys in Yumbo, we greeted the Italian public. Hello, friends. I'm here in Colombia, exactly in Yumbo, where William Zuniga filmed the flying sphere, this wonderful video that definitively demonstrates that these spheres, like the Buga Sphere that at this moment is in the hands of Jaime Maussan, are the same thing. That is the sphere that Jaime has, is the same sphere that Don José filmed. Unfortunately, with a cell phone of poor definition like the iPhone 11, the sphere was also farther away, Instead, William, here in these fields, there where we see the high-voltage pylon, was able to film this beautiful shot, where you can clearly see that the object that flies is exactly identical to the sphere that Jaime Maussan has. So, here begins another very important investigation in relation to the presence of these spheres that we know to be extraterrestrial objects, that record and monitor the environment, thanks to the fact, today it is demonstrated, that they possess a lot of optical fiber. There's David Velez El Potro, thank you. Thank you, David, for being with us. It's a real pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Pierre, for everything, for coming to Colombia with your whole crew. Thank you for believing in this very important phenomenon that's happening in Colombia that we need to show the world.
You know what I say, David? I don't say we must believe, we must know. We must not believe, we must know. It's something different. Believing is mystical, let's say. Knowing is scientific.
And scientific.
An important step. William, I am grateful to you for being here with us. You are the witness who made the shots of the Jumbo Sphere, a video that is already going around the world. Stephen Greer interviewed you, the great American researcher. He believes your video is genuine, so it's very important that today we are here, in this location, where the event happened. What was the date exactly, William? June 7th, 2025. So friends, follow our adventures, because soon, all the material we filmed here with William, with David, will go online, and now we'll go to Buga, and Don José is waiting for us. So we went to Buga. This is Alto Bonito, so the highest area of Buga. It's at the same level where the cross is. Here we had an appointment with Don José, because then he brought us to the plateau, quite distant to get there. We walked quite a bit also because it had rained. So everything was a bit marshy. You couldn't walk with great ease. In fact, it was difficult to reconstruct, and I haven't finished, so I'll have to return to Buga, because there was so much mud and the slope where the sphere landed is very steep. It was so slippery, I even fell when I went down. I took a big tumble. And here José is pointing to one side. He was pointing to where Maria filmed. Basically, Maria filmed from this area here, right on the edge of the small town, and here we arrived where the cross is, you see, very high. It really struck me, I said, damn, it's exactly like the video of the sphere, that is Buga, you can see exactly the same way. This is the Loma de la Cruz, the big cross, that appears for a moment in the footage. And Don José, you see, it's very steep, very steep. It goes down almost vertically toward Buga, and the sphere landed behind these bushes. Also from here, a brief greeting to the Italians. Hello, friends. We are here. This place is at Alto Bonito. Here we are exactly at the Loma de la Cruz. This is the big cross that also appears in some frames of the video that Don José recorded. We have just finished taking the shots. Okay, I want to wrap up with two very important things. I'll skip some things. Basically, yesterday, William Zuniga sends me a video. Says, Pierre, look at this video. There's a little surprise. Basically, since William didn't want to show his face because he too feared like Don José or like Don Mario, who to this day no one knows who he is. Velez knows him but doesn't want to appear, let's say on screens, doesn't want to show his face for that video. And William decided to show his face after he saw the analyses we did in Italy to Don Mario's video. Because Zuniga, as an engineer, said, UFO stories are all a bunch of nonsense and people make fun of you. But when I saw the analyses, I said, wow, here are people who approach things scientifically. Then I too can say that I made that video. So, Zuniga, showed his face, thanks to the analyses we did here in Italy. Specifically in the person of friend and collaborator, I repeat, Sante Pagano. Not only that, they got so enthusiastic that they created a group, UFO Hunters Latin America.
Cazadores de ovnis Latinoamérica.
And since Velez is an engineer and Zuniga is an engineer, they are two engineers and think like engineers. So what did they do? They said, since the spheres keep coming around here, he says, let's go to the mountains and place a series of automatic cameras and make them record 24 hours a day. But they really put them, as they say, in the middle of nowhere. And so what they did, they went to the mountains that surround the Yumbo area. Yumbo is here. These are the heights of Molalo. And they placed a series of cameras. And the other day, they went to recover them. And look at this. They basically have collaborators scattered throughout all of Latin America up to Spain. They took away, I believe, 1,200 hours of recording on hard disks from a few days. They distributed them to all the members of the group. They divided the hard disk contents among themselves and got down to watch the recordings. And they found this. So one of the cameras, lost in the middle of nowhere, at a certain point, a sphere passes by. It says, "Ah, they are filming me. How nice. I'll smile now." It almost seems fake. Incredible. This is news, really. From the other day. No, from yesterday. I will finish with two things. Sri Yantra is a Hindu mandala, therefore from India, which is also known as Sri Chakra, and is one of the most ancient and powerful symbols of the Indian spiritual tradition. It is used in meditation, in tantric rituals, and as geometric representation of the cosmic consciousness. The term yantra comes from the ancient Hindu language, Sanskrit, and means instrument or means, while Shri is an epithet that evokes abundance, beauty, prosperity, and refers to the goddess, Tripura Sundari, who is a supreme aspect of the Shakti. The Shakti, which is actually referring to the Holy Spirit, what we call Holy Spirit, which in its feminine expression is the creator. We call it the creator, but in reality, when one creates, generates, and therefore, it is feminine energy. The Shakti represents the primordial force of the universe, the dynamic energy that moves, creates, sustains, and dissolves everything. The feminine principle of creation, complementary and inseparable to Shiva, the masculine principle, that represents the pure consciousness. And also, Shiva is the principle of disaggregation or destruction in the sense of change. So Shakti is the cosmic mother, therefore for us, is the Holy Spirit. Therefore, the living energy, the breath of the universe without which nothing can exist or move. So the Sri Yantra, this mandala, that here I have removed, let's say, the part of the lotus petals, in its geometric form is composed of 9 interconnected triangles, of which 4 facing upward, which are the masculine principle, that is Shiva, and 5 are facing downward, that is the feminine principle, or Shakti, of which I just spoke. These triangles intersect and form 43 secondary triangles arranged in a balanced configuration around a central point called Bindu. The Sri Yantra is considered a cosmic map and a symbolic representation of the entire universe, of the human body, and of the process of divine manifestation. Therefore, it is a symbol of the multidimensionality of creation, and we, being composed of body, soul, and spirit, are at the same time a small cosmos, therefore a multidimensional microcosmos. Now, the incredible thing is that there is a girl who is called Laura Bedolia, who, looking at this chip, said, she is an expert of symbolism of Hinduism, sings the mantras, etc., etc., and she said, "Did you notice this?" Connecting the pins, the Sri Yantra appears. What does this mean? That in antiquity, spirituality and science were two faces of the same coin, and therefore these drawings, these symbols, these mandalas that we consider sacred art in reality, underlie scientific knowledge. The first impression that I had, holding the sphere in my hand, was that it is a very ancient object, because it is worn in part, you see? It is worn also by looking at the symbols. Therefore, this sphere is an object. That is different from our concept of technology. Another protest that has been made by the usual braggarts. But it is not extraterrestrial, because it is handmade and it is imperfect. But who said that extraterrestrials must do laser work like we do? Because our technology has lost the sense of art. In antiquity, art, spirituality, and science were the same thing. The sage, the priest, was also the scientist. We remember Archimedes, for example, or we remember even more Pythagoras. Therefore, this sphere is made with a technological concept that maintains art and the sacred, which is science. In fact, in the modern era, it is not by chance that some modern scientists and researchers have noticed that the Sri Yantra contains principles similar to those of interference waves, of resonance fields and quantum mechanics, suggesting that the sages of antiquity, in reality, already possessed knowledge of the energetic structure of the cosmos. Therefore, the Sri Yantra is not only a decorative or religious figure, but is a universal language that unites science and consciousness. Consciousness that our science has lost because it is destroying the planet. Therefore, it represents the perfect harmony between the microcosm and the macrocosm, between the human being and the infinite. Those engineers, starting from these data and from this knowledge, said, "Let's do a test." And look at what happened the other day. These are the very latest information. They took the sphere and went to the Polytechnic of Mexico City, where there is an institute, where sound and vibration are studied. And they subjected the sphere to these things here, to understand if the sphere gave any sign of reaction.
The doctor is calibrating his sound wave emitting device. We will emit frequencies from 60 Hz to 20,000 kHz. At this moment, the instruments are being zeroed.
It detects no field. It detects no field. It detects no field. No field.
Well, the test will consist in sending a series of tones to the speaker, and we will see if the sphere reacts to one of these tones.
Hey, it's rising here. It's detecting something. It's recording a field. Here it is. We are next to the sphere. We tried it above and below. What do you think, Doctor?
Okay, very interesting. Even here on the computer, a peak is being recorded.
Here is a peak. Therefore, all the instruments are concordant.
All the instruments agree. Look.
Jada jada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata avyuktanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham Paritranaya sadhunam vinasya cha duskritam dharmasasta parnantaya sambhavami juge juge karpuragaram karnavataram samsarasaram bhujagendraharam sada vasantam hidriyaravinde vavam vamami sehitam namami Om Bhurvuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Vargo devasya dhimahi Diyo yoma prachodayat Om.
Qui Marina Tonini
Here Marina Tonini will go crazy. Incredible, eh? Science of matter, science of spirit, the two exhibitionistic, that is, manifestative, and experimental aspects of the omni-creative intelligence. Two complementary values in perfect balance that stabilize the evolution of species. In the manifestative process of continuous becoming, message of August 19, 1982. The excess, or the defect of one or the other aspect causes imbalance, destabilization, collaborative incompetence and reaction, that is self-destruction. The excess of spiritual science provokes the Holy Inquisition, a period of terror, of death of 500 years. The excess of material science provokes the same. That devastation of the world that we are knowing today with the risk of an atomic war. These two aspects must be in balance. Not religious beliefs, science, not scientism, true science connected to consciousness, just as the symbol of the Sri Yantra tells us. Therefore, amidst all this technological, scientific, but also sacred, spiritual, ancient wonder, and modern at the same time, where the sacred joins the highly evolved, scientific, therefore the ancient and the present. In my opinion, the sphere is telling us, that is, the message that the extraterrestrials are telling us, that the golden era is coming again, the era where the man of the future will be a wise man, with a stable ethics, who will develop beautiful technologies without destroying his own planet. But since the sphere lands at the city of the Christ of miracles, we must remember the most important thing, which is this: flying discs, a purely messianic revelation. Like Toma, that is Thomas, disciple of biblical memory. The great part of the men of this world want to see and touch only the physical, instrumental, and scientific part of these prodigious means that today we call flying discs, refusing in the most categorical way the other much more important aspect that regards the revelatory part of their presence and of their symbolic admonishments, the messianic one. The messianic one. Therefore, the sphere lands at the feet of the cross, on a hill that for me represents the Calvary. Therefore, the extraterrestrials in their symbolism render honor to Christ the Redeemer, because these beings are his angels, and they are preparing the way for his return. These discussions irritate ufologists and cause them to vomit offenses, mockeries, and stupidities as they refuse to accept this fact. The extraterrestrial visit is an eschatological sign that indicates that we are in the time of the return of our Lord. Like it or not, that's the situation. And they say, Know that we are the architects of all the prodigies that you terrestrials have put on the religious plane. We are the angels of yesterday, the messengers, who traveled on the chariots of fire or burning shields. We are the extraterrestrials of today, who are working to save what can be saved on your planet in serious crisis because of your unconscious and destructive activity. Still, it is only the beginning of an unthinkable drama, unimaginable and heavy with irreversible troubles, sours of death and destruction. So, why do they insist? These beings, they insist because they hope that with these signs and with our goodwill, we manage to make the difference. We unite. We avoid this terrible future that the powerful of the world and our indifference is preparing for us. There is no future. As we conceive it, as we have lived it until today, there is another future, where they will be there, where there will be Christ, who will return and will judge humanity. Therefore, it will be a beautiful future, but one must earn it. One must be part of that new humanity. That wants change, but the change must be us. No one will bring it to us at home on a silver platter. This is the message that they want to transmit to us. I have been doing this for 35 years. I left my old job, the state railways, with the great disapproval of my family. Obviously dead set against this crazy idea. A young railway worker who leaves the classic secure job to get involved with UFOs. I was fit for the asylum, according to them. I did not die. I am here. And instead of a dull, predictable life, I live an incredible life of magnificent adventures. I have friends all over the world. I am witness to exceptional events. I have cuddled the sphere of Buga. I am friends with Jaime Maussan. Now I am friends who call me around the clock. Now, early August, I will leave again for Colombia. I repeat, if you want to give us a hand, I am not alone. I have some young people, some guys, Giovanni and others, with whom we collaborate. There is a group here in Palermo, too. There are other friends who are here in the hall. They came to attend the conference in person. We are a small, very active network that manages to bring awareness with these works to thousands and thousands of people. If you want to be part of this beautiful adventure, welcome. There is space for everyone. And who knows, maybe you see? I have known for many years what must happen, and the events that unfold every day confirm it. I already know how it will end. I had a rather heated discussion with the beloved and late Giulietto Chiesa. In unsuspected times, I told him, Giulietto, China and Russia will ally. No, what are you saying? That can't happen. Two completely different communisms, different cultures. Russians don't trust the Chinese. Giulietto, China and Russia will ally. Because it is written in the prophecy. When it happened, Giulietto tells me, how did you know? I said, I have reliable sources. Today, China and Russia are two very important allies. Iran was missing. Now Iran has joined. The attack on Iran was missing. The attack on Iran took place. What is Iran? The wrath of God. So God is preparing a scenario that will be beautiful for those who deserve it, terrible for all those who, starting from the lukewarm, that is, the indifferent ones, ending with the Netanyahus on duty, including our Italian governments that are all corrupt, every single one, puppets of power, some from Finmeccanica, now Leonardo, some from this, some from that. For those people, there is no future. There will be a terrible future, but we must be careful. We must seize the opportunity, because then it passes. And if you lose it, if you miss the train, the Lord says, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So, today, if I had listened to my mom, rest her soul, especially her. Mothers are very, let's say they are mothers. Today I would be a railway worker, close to retirement, but they always push it further out, don't they? But I knew even then, because Eugenio had told me the facts about the future. So if I had not made this choice with today's events, I would be screwed today. I would say, damn, but I was afraid. I did not make the choice, and today I am here, terrified by the facts that are about to happen, that are happening, and I did nothing. I chose comfort, the so-called security. There is no security. Death awaits us anyway. There are only two things, either a dull and common life, or a life where you risk, but that is worth living. I am still here. I am almost 70 years old. I am 66 years old, and I am still on track.
Grazie.
Thank you. Please ask your questions.
Lo Sri Yantra non te l'aspettavi, eh? Carminuccio.
You didn't expect the Sri Yantra, eh?
Oh.
Absolutely. Microphone, what is your name? Let's drop the formalities, yes.
Claudio.
Claudio, yes. Go on, Claudio, tough guy.
Ci portate dell'acqua, per cortesia?
Wait, turn it on, Claudio.
I agree with you. That talking about aliens or talking about extraterrestrials is the same thing.
Talking about aliens or talking about angels is the same thing, because aliens and extraterrestrials are the same thing.
Angels, I meant to say, I apologize.
Yes, angels.
But there are fallen angels?
Sure, you bet.
Because the Bible talks about it, that they are inside, tunnels, deep within the earth.
They live in Agartha.
Yes.
But today Agartha is empty, Claudio.
We must be careful. That actually, there can be also fallen angels who can create problems to mankind.
So the angels,
Because they are activating something for the Antichrist.
The fallen angels, who are the Legion of Lucifer.
Gli angeli caduti,
the fallen angels.
Papa Leone XIII,
Pope Leo XIII. Now we have again a Leo, Pope Leo XIII, while he was celebrating Mass. In the 1800s, I don't remember when, had a vision. He saw the earth splitting and all the demons coming out from this opening and attacking the Church of Christ, which is not the Vatican. The Church of Christ are all the faithful who have Christ in their heart. But we also accept that the institution, albeit corrupt and polluted by scoundrels of every kind and type, anyway represent it, also because Jesus says that the gates of hell would not have prevailed over it. And in the vision, the Pope sees that these demons attack the church almost to the point of collapse. But Archangel Michael defeats them. So he made a prayer, an invocation precisely to Saint Michael that he would become and be the protector of the church. Unfortunately, the criminals who then went to power, this prayer they removed it. So it is true, what you say. And these angels possess and control all the powerful of the world and the majority of human beings. In fact, Claudio, the vast majority of us is possessed by one of these beings, who prevent us from doing something serious in favor of the common good. They keep us in a state of fear or indifference or materialism, and they distance us from all those values and from all those knowledges that can awaken us and lead us to change things as they are. So the Antichrist governs the world, and the Antichrist, in fact,
the evil one, it is written.
Eh?
It is written in the Bible that the world lies in wickedness.
Sure, the world lies. Sure, but what is sin? The disobedience to God's laws. But God's laws are social laws. Do not kill. Do not bear false witness. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. We are talking about a healthy society, not about things. Not about things.
The work of the flesh. The work of the flesh. There where the flesh.
Sure, where the flesh, Claudio, goes in imbalance. So the values of the flesh degenerate. Because the flesh was created by God. God created mating. God created sex, man and woman, but it must remain in the balance of mutual respect and ethics. Today, instead, we are in dissolution, in perversion, where even we don't know. There is no more sex. There are 40 types of, I don't know how many they have reached.
Exactly.
Insanity.
We are going towards the Antichrist.
No, we are already in the hands of the Antichrist. I have good news for you. He has yet to reveal himself. The Antichrist, Claudio, will reveal himself when it is his last chance to maintain his power, because there is another vision.
But the rapture comes first, though.
The rapture of the church, exactly, which is in one of Paul's letters. No, the rapture of the church, not of Jesus. It is Jesus who has his elect raptured.
Has raptured.
Exactly, the elect. There is another vision, which, if I am not mistaken, is by Anna Katerina Emmerich, where Jesus... No, it is always that of Leo 13, where he sees Satan asking Jesus for 100 years of power. He challenges him, tells him, if you give me 100 years of power, I will destroy your church.
The temptation in the desert.
Hey, let me finish. One moment. I mean, have some patience.
We are in Sicily, Pier.
Yes. So, always in Pope Leo XIII's vision, he sees Satan who asks Jesus, which is very significant, that Satan asks Jesus for power, and Jesus grants it to him. These 100 years begin on October 13th, 1917, with the last apparition at Fatima, in conjunction. Did I say October 13th? Yes, October 13th of 1917, with the apparition of the miracle of the sun. And that day, Our Lady told the three little shepherds the so-called third secret of Fatima, in which there was also the prophecy of the cosmic era. A sentence that has been removed also from the diplomatic text that says, in that time, second half of the 20th century, cosmic beings will come from distant shores of the universe in the name of God, because Our Lady of Fatima comes to announce especially the return of her Son. So she is the first expression of the promised Comforter, who was also John the Evangelist, who is the Paraclete, who had to reveal those celestial things that Jesus, 2,000 years ago, for lack of scientific knowledge, could not reveal. So today is the time of revelation, and those 100 years of power expired in 2017. From that moment, the Antichrist has started to lose power. In fact, if you remember, everyone was talking about the New World Order. They don't talk about it anymore. Why? Because at some point, one of the devils sitting at the table of power named Vladimir Putin said, I don't agree anymore. Changes the game completely and goes against the Antichrist. Let me finish, Claudio. Wait, then thank God, we thank him together.
I mean, thank God the rupture will happen first.
Yes. But let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish. I'll tell you when the rapture happens. Yes, sure.
Perché nella profezia che tu hai citato,
Because in the prophecy that you cited before, the Father, because it is a prophecy of the Old Testament, the prophecy of Gog and Magog, says that he chooses his instrument of evil, which is the Prince of Ross. The Prince of Ross are the Russians. The Prince of Ross is Putin. So Putin is the Antichrist in service of God, who must beat down and destroy the Antichrist in service of man, that is the Antichrist who brings all the values of the rebellion of the human being to God's laws, which is what we all worship, because his prime instrument is money, the money God, which we all worship and towards which we all prostrate ourselves and prostitute ourselves.
quindi il compito del signor Vladimir Putin.
So the task of Mr. Vladimir Putin, let me finish, that the task of Mr. Vladimir Putin is to coalesce the princes of evil who rebel against the ultimate prince of evil to beat him down, that is, to crush his power, so that the two witnesses, who are Enoch and Elijah, can unmask him, and after, Christ will pierce him and destroy him. He will judge humanity after the rapture of the church, and after, there will be the establishment of the kingdom. The rapture of the church happens shortly before the atomic war, and of the manifestation, because Christ will manifest in two times. First, he manifests to his elect because he does not want his elect to see him in his holy wrath, where he will judge with ferocity and without mercy all of humanity, and with authority, with power and glory, and to establish the kingdom. So since he does not want his elect to see him mad as hell, but really hard, he has them taken away before, because in Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, he says, "We will be caught up in the air, and in the air we will meet the Lord." So, there is a first, eh?
With an incorruptible body.
With a body, sure. At that moment, sure, because do you know why? Do you know why, Claudio? What does it mean in modern terms? It means a variation of the state of matter. Today we are made of 3 parts of matter and 1 part astral. The astral part that comes from stars. So our solar matter, which in fact is the soul, is a baby in gestation that with the experience of reincarnations and the acquisition of consciousness we are bringing to maturity. Hey, if you let me finish, I am explaining it to you scientifically. And let me finish, I am telling you. It is a transformation of matter because the dimension of the new kingdom will not be as dense as this one. That is, it will not be this flesh. So there will be a quantum leap that everyone talks about but nobody understands what it is. The quantum leap is that there is an inversion. So that from 3 parts of matter and 1 part of astral, we will end up with 3 parts of astral and only 1 part of matter. So this flesh will not be anymore. There will not be the pressure. There will not be the oppressive pressure of the desires of the flesh that distress us so much and lead us to make mistakes, but there will be a power of the soul and of the spirit that will dominate with ease. Those instincts that today have brought humanity to degeneration. So there is a transmutation, a change of state.
No, excuse me. We have little time left for the room, and there are 4 more questions. No, please, we have 5 questions.
Yes, I have already completed. Jesus has already returned.
A quarter of an hour. You know, guys, the Antichrist that we must fight. It's called ego. Got it. And let's remember that we are in Sicily. I mean, I say to you, I also feel Sicilian.
All right, what is the other question? Thanks, Claudio, anyway.
Right in Sicily, let's remember that this ego exists that we must transform. Go on.
So the ego is us, ego sum. But the ego becomes hypertrophic, and it always wants to speak. What is the problem? That if you speak, you can only say the things you already know. If you stay quiet instead, you will acquire a lot more information. So from an evolutionary perspective, it is much better to stay quiet and listen. Also because maybe someone looks at you and says, "He looks like an idiot," but as long as you don't speak, there is doubt. If you speak, then you confirm it. The wise man says, never argue with an idiot, because people watching won't know which one is which, and eventually he'll beat you with experience. Einstein was asked, "What is the difference between genius and stupidity?" Said Einstein, "Genius has its limits." In fact, there is an error. There is an error. Because, among other things, Einstein claimed that space is geometric, and he was wrong. Space is not geometric, but it is a fluid. Which finally brought solution to that discrepancy on the formula of the red frequency in bodies and velocity. A physics professor from the University of Pisa solved it a few years ago. But since he is a nobody, they kept him there. As always, if you don't have the right friends.
Hermano, por favor, habla tú.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, thank you for this beautiful conference.
Thank you.
To share with you, I am Colombian. I know that in Colombia there are many things to do research on, because not only this, there are many things that are related to this topic.
There is a lot of extraterrestrial activity. I would have liked to put other videos, but flying saucers, that is, in Colombia, there's something incredible going on. Because among those people there is a spiritual quality. And there is a person like David Velez, who if he had been someone from Milan, for example, even filthy rich, no way he would give away the sphere. He would take the money. Instead, this young entrepreneur, super wealthy, gave it away and said, "This object belongs to humanity." And now he has set out to travel through the mountains to look for UFOs. Where do you find people like this? So there is a spiritual quality.
Let's say that in Colombia we practice a lot: humility, forgiveness, and love.
Así es, hermano.
My question is, what do you think of the 40,000 neurons that are found in the heart? That, for me, is the development that humanity needs.
The electric field of the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the electric field of the brain. Because the heart is the sun of the body, and the heart is the center with which we, spirit, govern the body through the blood. The heart is not a pump, but it is a sorting valve that transmits a certain amount of energy and movement to the blood, such that the blood circulates by its own motion. It doesn't circulate by mechanical thrust, as the imbeciles in universities tell us, because I was with some researchers many years ago, and there was a skeptic who said, "But no, everyone knows the heart is a pump." And there was a friend who is a theoretical physicist who tells him, "Let's do the calculations," because the other was a mechanical physicist. We start talking about the quantity of blood flow per hour, the quantity of energy needed to beat 24 hours a day, the thrust needed to carry the blood throughout the body. At a certain point, he stopped doing the calculations. He said the result would be something that would require a power plant to power it. You would need not the aorta or the arteries, the veins. You would need titanium steel tubes. to withstand the necessary thrust. So, the heart is not a pump, the heart is a sorting valve and is a brain because it has between 40 and 50,000 neurons. In fact, when we go like this, it doesn't mean it means that one is. Instead, when we must swear loyalty, we are here. We are not here. So the heart. Why does Jesus tell him, when Jesus says to Master Zera, "Destroy this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days"? Zera who? Zera, zero, close enough. Zera who thinks from here, doesn't feel here, because most human beings are disconnected. They have the connection line interrupted. So they are only calculators. They only think mathematically. That is, they don't have intuition, which is genius. In fact, have you noticed that geniuses don't come out of universities? Just people who conform? The genius is the creative one. That is, the one who reasons. For example, Bill Gates graduated. Steve Jobs didn't graduate because he thought creatively. So, then actually did he graduate? Because maybe Bill Gates didn't graduate either. Look it up on the Oracle. Maybe he hasn't graduated either. Anyway, the heart thinks. So, when Jesus tells him, Zera, the heart, not the mind. And the Lord also said it to Judas because the Spirit is here. Here there is the number. Money is here. For this reason, Jesus says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand gives, or your left hand know what your right hand gives. Because when we act from the heart, we don't make calculations. There is empathy, resonance. The human is the one who feels here, not the one who thinks here. So in Latin America, I see people, professors, academics, college deans, journalists with money in their pockets who can pay for their own television. With money in their pockets, who can pay for their own television, who show their face for the truth, who fight against power. That is, they do what? They do what nobody here in the West does, except some fool like me and a few others who are nobodies. But those who are well off don't show their faces. They keep their asses covered. And so from them we cannot expect any kind of hope. I hope that with all these marvelous things that are happening, this beautiful information, that we truly create a human mass that manages to break down this wall of filth that is bringing us to a terrible future. I have also met beautiful people, even here among us. I met Rolando Pelizza, Judge Carlo Palermo, and many people who risk their face, their skin, in the name of humanity. They don't do it for themselves, they do it for the common good. So if we manage to unite and lift ourselves from our miserable state, we can be that mass that makes the change. And we prevent, because we give to the Father who can do everything. We move him and make him decide to intervene, and he spares us the atomic war. I am fighting for this. I don't want the atomic war. This planet has suffered enough already. Why atomic missiles as well? It is ugly. It is terrible. If God is moved, he prevents it. He can do everything. Another serious problem of humanity. God is a being. He is an intelligence. He is a being. He is a person. He made us equal to him. Of course, he is an Elohim. So the Father, Adonai, can do everything. But he is enraged with humanity, like a beast, because humanity is blasphemous. He gives goodness and humanity spits in his face, so he wants to destroy it. In fact, Jesus says that it will be worse than in the days of the flood. I say, but if we love this Father, we recognize the beauty of his laws that would give us a better society, let's talk with him. Let's show him that we want something different. Maybe he answers us and says, "All right, you have convinced me, I'll change your future." Maybe not, I don't know, but at least, let's try. What is happening in Colombia? If Father Adonai hadn't authorized it, not even a sphere would move, not if their lives depended on it. So if he is allowing this, maybe I tell myself, these are the last signs before a terrible catastrophe. Or he is getting enthusiastic because he sees small fires and says, "Come on, light up so you give me reason to spare you this terrible destiny." Let's go for it. Because the future that Trump, Xi Jinping, Putin are preparing for us is a frightening future. It doesn't mean Putin because he's against is the salvation or Xi Jinping. The Chinese society is already a dystopian society, with biometric control, a mess. I don't want to end up there. They are not the alternative, also because weapons, atomic, commerce, exploitation of the planet, there is no alternative there. It's only an accelerated destruction. It's only a new master who wants to replace the old one, maybe with a slightly more presentable face, compared to that of the Anglo-Americans, and all the disgusting ass-kissers behind them, including us Italians. Also because let's not forget our miserable geopolitical condition of what Professor Orsini shouts at the top of his lungs of being lackeys and bootlickers of the Americans. We brought it on ourselves, with fascism, giving credit to a raging madman like Benito Mussolini. So we deserve it. What we are living today. Let's redeem ourselves, we the people. We the people gave power to Mussolini as we gave it to another disgusting thing called Berlusconi.
But now we have returned to that with these governments.
No, maybe we are even worse.
Dai Berlusconi siamo passati ai Meloni.
From Berlusconi, we went to Maloney. I don't know. My God, guys. Let's carry on. Another question, and then we wrap up.
Hello.
The contact is... What's your name? Giovanni. The contact is a fluctuating date. That depends a lot on how we respond to these signs. So there is a period that is this one, undoubtedly, but the date is not known, it's variable, just as we don't know how it ends. That is, it ends with the return of Jesus and the kingdom. But if then we get there under the fire of atomic bombs, or under better circumstances, we determine this with our actions, each one of us. Look, we are very, very important. That's why they attack us at all levels, with crises, with trash television, with dissolutions, with materialism, with vices. They attack us with everything, us the people, because we, if we want, we overturn the table of power, and they don't want us to understand it. Unfortunately, we are weak and cowards. There's the question, please, guys.
Hello, Pier Giorgio. I'm Oscar from Calabria.
I won an Oscar.
Congratulations for the great big work you did. I wanted to ask you 2 questions. The first is a technical question about the video. I wanted to know, in the second video, the clip of engineer Zuniga, if I remember correctly, that's his name, the background noise that you hear, what does it do to?
So if you're referring to the noise, to the rustling?
No, I'm referring precisely to the noise. It seems almost like there's either a motor or cars passing by.
No, you're getting confused. That's Don Mario's video.
Yes, Don Mario's. Yes, sorry.
The Tallulah video, it's a farmer with his son plowing, so it's the sound of the tractor.
It's the sound of the tractor, I understand. And then the second question, what are the chances in the imminent apocalypse that Calabria succumbs, that it gets swallowed by both seas?
Va bene, Oscar, ti ringrazio.
All right, Oscar. I thank you for the global spirit in which you contemplate Calabria. Anyway, I have good news for you. The others won't fare better than Calabria.
la Calabria. Allora,
So, in this process that is happening, there isn't an ethnicity or a location that is different compared to the others. The process is global, so it will involve all of humanity. Certainly the atomic catastrophe, if there should be a war, will hit especially us, Europeans. It will happen here, the Mexicans, the Colombians.
The Armageddon.
The Armageddon is the Middle East.
But there's the war.
Indeed, Jesus says it. Jesus prophesies, but since the Old Testament, there's, for example, I don't know if Malachi or Isaiah, I don't remember. There is oracle about Damascus, Syria, that there would never be peace. Because in those territories where Christ was crucified, until he says it, you shall not see me henceforth till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Since he was killed there, in those very places, there will never be peace until he returns. There has never been peace. It has always been an ongoing hotbed of fratricidal wars, clashes, and it doesn't. So the Armageddon breaks out in the Middle East, and the attack on Iran, which is the wrath of God, is the beginning of this process.
But there will be all the nations that will march against Israel, and this is coming true.
Certainly.
Because all nations will go against Israel.
Yes, because with what Israel is doing, now it's pissing everyone off, even the Eternal Father, so... However, you see, Israel is guilty of genocide, but even more guilty are all the others who stay silent or even pass them the weapons. Mrs. Maloney. I am a mother, a great mother, Mrs. Maloney. I believe in the peaceful coexistence of all humanity. I am for peaceful coexistence because in diversity and in the unity of differences, there is beauty, there is creativity. That UNAM document, silence. The specialist, before signing, cited a phrase of a great Latin American figure, whose name escapes me now, where precisely he wishes, already decades ago, that a new earthly man would arise born from the coexistence, from the exchange, and from the beauty of the diversity of peoples and cultures of the earth. We are a family. In the end, it's like dogs. The mutt is always more intelligent and clever than purebred dogs, because it sums up in itself the qualities of various breeds. So today, the terrestrial mutt is already born. It's the Latin. The Latin is a mestizo. He's not white, he's not yellow, he's not black, and he's not red. He's mestizo. We are mestizos. We are not Swedish or English. We are not redskins. We are not African, blacks, and we are not Chinese yellows. We are mestizos. So the Latin people is the people that gathers in itself the qualities of all the four main terrestrial races. Indeed, it's not by chance that Italy alone contains 80% of all the historical production of world art. Considering everything that the French took away, the Germans, the English, all those who stole from us because we are a people of imbeciles. But yes, the last question, guys. So we say goodbye. One and we wrap up, the last one. The young man took the microphone. Write to me, or better, subscribe so I can respond to you every month. Subscribe, it costs a few cents a day. Silence.
A year ago, my mom died. A year ago, Mom died of tumor.
Yes.
And she thought when she was sick that it was the vaccine that caused damage. She thought about COVID.
What's the question?
This, that she was sick, I don't accept. I feel anxious. I always cry.
It was a consequence.
A consequence. A consequence.
It could be, I'm not a doctor, I'm not able to say. Certainly it's that after the injections with that stuff that was managed in military environment, not by chance there was General Filiolo, then whose son he was, we'll find out.
And I don't give myself peace. I don't give myself peace. I'm always anxious.
But there is an increase in tumors. A new disease was born, sudden death. What is sudden death? Sudden death is nothing. What did he die of? It's like Jesus died of a cold on the cross. You know, he was half naked, poor thing. There was wind. So, what happened with the gene serum is a disaster. That is causing so much suffering. Unfortunately, people didn't inform themselves. They believed a minister without hope. They believed riffraff like those who went on TV at every opportunity. They called a Nobel Prize winner like Montagnier an asshole. People not very tall but a little short raged on televisions, shooting nonsense. But the problem is not them, the problem is who believed them and didn't get informed. This is the problem. So, in those days, Claudio, be quiet. Enough. Yes. No, we're done.
Excuse me, Pierre.
Get the subscription and ask me questions. I'll respond to you. Every month, an hour and a half, 2 hours dedicated to you, plus special contents.
Thank you, Pierre.
Give me a hand. Give me a hand. Friends who are listening to me, thank you because you are already among the chosen ones. Give us a hand because...
Can I say one thing?
The rapture and the lifting.
Look, Claudio, subscribe and the first 10 questions I'll answer only to you. Go on.
Thank you, Pierre, for this beautiful day. It would be interesting, I don't know if by memory you remember, to unite to this Sri Yantra. If you remember in the history of crop circles something.
There's so much other stuff, friends. Now I think I'll do a seminar of at least 2 episodes because not even what I had today I managed to show you because there's really so much information.
The Sri Yantra will surely appear in crop circle history.
Yes, there's a connection. Also with the chip.